can be used to have a positive impact on mental health. And this is done through both looking at what the effect is of being in a dark sky area where it's quiet and peaceful and you just see the stars, you're out in nature. How can this now help people to feel better, to be less stressed, less anxious, and things like that?
And Thailand's Constitutional Court has ordered the dissolution of a political party that won the most seats in last year's elections. Move Forward holds 1/3 of the seats in Thailand's legislature, but it is blocked by conservative and military-backed parties from forming a government. The BBC's Jonathan Head.
The court argued that even Move Forward's mild proposal to moderate the draconian punishments under the lèse-majesté law amounted to an attempt to overthrow the constitutional monarchy, so justifying its dissolution. The same argument was used to block Move Forward from forming a government after winning last year's general election. The party's top leaders, including its charismatic prime ministerial candidate Peter Limjaroenrat, are now banned from politics for 10 years, although its remaining MPs will be able to move to a new party and continue their role as a diminished opposition bloc in Parliament.
The top story at 3 o'clock, and it's breaking news. The 280 million rand Estina dairy farm matter is struck off the roll at the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. For SAFM News, Gemudupi Makhalemele.
In sports this hour, Proteas and West Indies to do battle in series showdown. Brian Roths through to the men's high jump final, and Zim poaching stars as they look to revive their rugby side. More details at 3:30.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein. SA Women Struggles Journal. Hashtag Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development. SAFM celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the Women's Month conversation. SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
What advice then would you give the school, and what advice would you give the country in whether it's dealing stroke healing this issue of racism, particularly in school?
Oh, very, very easy for the school, which is use this as an opportunity to address the issue more broadly. Don't try and hide the story. Put it out there, have workshops, speak in assemblies, call the parents, but use this as an opportunity to reclaim decency in the school, to say what is wrong and what you stand for.
Jonathan Jansen, a Prof of Education at the University of Stellenbosch.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
A warm welcome, a good afternoon, wherever you may be in the country and wherever you are around the world. My name is Ashraf Garda, and this is the National Pulse. And often I talk to you about the fact that you are the key driver of the National Pulse, which means that you determine what ultimately moves the National Pulse today. So what do you think are the biggest issues today that moves the National Pulse? And based on that, we'll have the conversations that move you. You can call in right away. In fact, 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. And as always, on social media, you can also give those same views about what for you are the big movers that moves the National Pulse today. And feel free to post pictures of where you are and your dial locked on to SAFM. Nelson Chamisa, we talked to him shortly, former Zimbabwean, well, I think he's still a Zimbabwean politician and a key member of an attempt to have regime change in that country, that election a few months back, but he's not actively involved in politics at this point in time, or easy. We'll talk to him, right? And if you wish to raise any of the other issues that you think are really important, feel free to do just that as well. We also want to just pick up on the issue of in fact, let me just say this to you right away, right? And it's an interesting thing that I want to bring up as part of my That's My Point feature, right? That we often throw out here. Do you get a situation where, wherever you may be, you have some service that you're asked to do, and as part of that service, so you're asked to do the service, and as part of that service, the service provider, let's call the person the plumber or the mechanic and the tiler, mainly in the service building industry, would always say, okay, job's done. If you have a problem, let me know. And that I'll come and sort it out. And that seems to be like the standard. If you have a problem, let me know. No problem. And I've always told myself, you know what? The guy who really delivers great service would not even say, if you have a problem, let me know. He would actually say, or she would say, this is fixed up. There are no problems. This is exactly what you wanted, and I've sorted out your problem. You are good to go. It's a complete mindset shift. I wonder what you think. Do you also say, if you have a problem, let me know? Or do you say, your problem is solved? Well, that's my point. What's yours?
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, we touched on the issues of Zimbabwe yesterday. It's an issue that is really important. We thought let's talk more about it today, but from a completely different angle. Zimbabwe, the state of affairs of that country, South Africa's neighbor. What is the state of Zimbabwe right now? What needs to change? A lot of politicians have made pronouncements, people in Zimbabwe, people on the outside of South Africa. Well, today we chat to the former president of the CCC, which is the Citizens Coalition for Change, and the advocate, the president, leader advocate Nelson Chamisa, who has described Zimbabwe as the sickness of SADC. Chamisa has also criticized the Zimbabwean government's intolerance of alternative voices, calling it a national embarrassment for the country. All that, if it's true, doesn't all go well for where Zimbabwe is right now. I mean, some may say, as others have said, it's not a case of Zimbabwe rocks, but Zimbabwe ruins, and that's not a good thing at all. So let's do this. For the next 20 minutes or so, we'll chat to Advocate Nelson Chamisa. Good chatting to you, and thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. God bless you as well, and your country. And it's a good way to start in terms of, what is your assessment of the state of Zimbabwe today?
Well, Zimbabwe is in a very difficult political situation. A governance crisis, a leadership crisis, a paralysis in terms of direction, in terms of progress, occasioned by a disputed election. You are aware that by all standards, SADC standards, AU standards, international observer mission standards, Commonwealth, COMESA, the international world in general, they all passed a verdict of a flawed and irregular election. Even Zimbabweans themselves, including those in ZANU-PF, they know that what they did in August on the 23rd was not an election but a sham. And that sham must be corrected. That sham must be regularized. And this is what we have been grappling with. We have a political situation where there is a stalemate in the country, and there's a contested government, there's a contested president, and that is where we are.
All right, so I tell you what, just help me and maybe others who suffer from amnesia, who've forgotten about the fact there's been this disputed election. And if that's the case, right, then we still have the incumbents in power. So what then happened in spite of the election being disputed, particularly, to quote you, as you said, even from observers from the SADC region? So if they have that clout, then why would the situation and the status quo have remained?
Well, of course, it remains because we have a big challenge within the region and on the continent. It then becomes a union of leaders instead of union of citizens. And that is what we have been saying over and over again, that what we need is a community of the citizens of the Southern African Development Community. It must be a development community, but also a social community and a political community of the citizens themselves in terms of basic standards of human rights, good governance, proper elections, and to have a certain standards in terms of how the rule of law has to be respected. And that is what we have always said. We are where we are because SADC did not pass a clean verdict on the elections in Zimbabwe. And having done so, we wrote to them and they assisted with the matter. This matter was supposed to be dealt with by the organ Troika, and it's still before the Troika within SADC to deal with the issues that we raised. And so, that's where we are.
So what would you have hoped now with hindsight should have happened after that, in inverted commas, disputed election?
Well, what should have happened was a political settlement to say what are the issues. Now that the election was not conducted properly, how do we move forward? Because what we have is a government that does not have the mandate of the citizens. And this is why this government has failed to produce and perform for the citizens of Zimbabwe. That's why there's an economic paralysis. That's why you have over 5 million Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora. And that's why Zimbabwe continues to be a headache for other countries, South Africa included, Zambia, Botswana. We have Zimbabweans all over, not because they want to be there and be a nuisance, but they are there because of circumstances. The political situation in the country is such that there are push factors more than there are pull factors for people to remain in the country. So what has to happen is a political settlement in making all political players, ourselves included, because the election was, even a disputed election, was almost like 50-50. And Mr. Mnangagwa had abused the electorate, he had manipulated ZEC with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission by making sure that certain ballot papers were not distributed. People were in the queues for 2 days without actually being able to vote. Why? Because the ballot papers were not there. A bizarre and sham of an election.
All right. So, having said that, we know where you were then at the election time. You were contesting that election. Where does Nelson Chamisa fit now? Where are you now?
Where I am now is as one of the people who have been given the mandate as national leaders. We have to have a common position as Zimbabweans to say, how do we cure this illegitimacy? How do we cure this disputed election? And the way to cure it is for people to come together and say, these are the steps to making sure that there are reforms, electoral reforms, political reforms, and of course a transitional arrangement and mechanism to have proper systems, undisputed political processes, undisputed elections, undisputed legitimacy, so that once we do that, Zimbabwe is readmitted again into the family of nations. The dilemma right now is that SADC is going to confer chairmanship on Zimbabwe with such a deficit and deficiency of attributes and credentials of good governance. That's a challenge.
Okay, my understanding is you resigned from your party after the election. Does that remain effective?
Well, of course, yes. I did not resign on my own. I had to leave because Mr. Mnangagwa was playing his tomfoolery and antics of a dictatorship by manipulating parliament and even trying to recall and withdraw legitimate members of parliament on account of his games that he was playing. So I said, look, I have nothing to do with these funny games. My focus is on nation building. My focus is on resolving the disputed election. And I do so with the mandate of the citizens of Zimbabwe. Over 2 million people of Zimbabwe who voted for me, who voted for us, who voted for the alternative. And that is the voice I carry. That is the legitimacy I hold. And
the big question I'll ask you next, in fact, is whether your resignation or removing yourself from your own party has served Zimbabwe's interest. I'll put that to you right after this.
Well, it has. It has, because I don't need a political party to be effective. I just need to be a Zimbabwean who is carrying that legitimacy out of the elections. And people of Zimbabwe are very clear. They appreciate this position and they understand the circumstances. They know that ours is a very difficult environment. And I don't need to be wearing a jacket of a political party. I only need to be wearing the jacket of Zimbabwe. And I carry
let's find out what that means right after this.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarat Park, Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under 15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under 15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under 15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma or Pumapi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Continuing to chat to Advocate Nelson Chamisa, the Zimbabwean politician, former president of the CCC, Citizens Coalition for Change. So he's out of that party formally, but he's certainly very active in terms of where he wants his country to go and his role. But let's get clarity on exactly that role. So before the break, you made the point that you still have lots to do. So what then is your role right now?
My role is to bring that other piece of Zimbabwe that Mr. Mnangagwa doesn't have. The country is divided by half. In fact, we have the majority. But when we go according to the election that was rigged, we have almost half-half. And that tells you that we have a legitimate voice to making sure that we correct that disputed election. We correct the governance deficits that we have. We correct the issues that have bedevil this country. You know that Zimbabwe has not been in its best of place since the 2000s, and we still have those problems. Those problems have been before SADC, before the AU, before the world, and we want these issues to be resolved. Human rights deficits. As we speak, over 80 people are political prisoners on account of persecution and abductions and arrests. As we speak right now, we have human rights defenders, we have civil society, who are incarcerated, not for any reason, but just trumped up charges. That tells you that we are a sick country. Our politics is broken. Our economy is sinking. And of course, our social fabric is torn apart. Families are all over the world, dotted across the globe of the world. Why? Because of the challenges that we have politically. It's a leadership deficit problem.
Do I take it that, and give us clarity on this, is opposition, public voicing of opposition to Zimbabwe and the leadership of Zimbabwe currently, is that tolerated? You mentioned the prisoners, I hear that. Is it tolerated?
Well, Well, there's no tolerance, actually. There is a problem and there's a fight. Most people have trumped up charges on account of having a divergent view or a different opinion. And that is part of the problem, because our biggest challenge is that we have people in government who did not get into government on account of the mandate of the people. Look at South Africa. They had their own issues out of elections, but they produced the government of national unity. I'm not suggesting that that should be the way to go, but there has to be conversation. There has to be a debate. You know, it takes two to tango. You can't build a nation by having one political party that is dominating on the basis of coercion, violence, and repression.
So what have you learned from South Africa's example? The ruling party being in power for 30 years, the party of Nelson Mandela, drops below 50%, in fact gets as low as 40%, and now is part of a government of national unity, praised and criticized. But what do you think, what can Zimbabwe learn from that?
Yes, building a nation is not a solo affair. Building a nation is not a mono task. It takes all the different pluralistic parties and individuals to play a role. A government of national unity is actually an acknowledgement of the will of the people. Respect the voice of the people. When the voice of the people is respected, the economy responds. When the voice of the people is respected, even the nation moves in a particular direction. Because at the end of the day, we are one people, not just as Zimbabweans, but as Africans. And we must be able to come together, understand that what brings us together is far more outweighs what may actually separate us. We are one people.
Can you see a type of government of national unity? Forget the words, GNU, multi-party coalition being formed in Zimbabwe for the benefit of South Africans. That's of Zimbabwe, that is negotiated by the different parties and different political views in that country?
In fact, the future is one. The future is united. We have to be able to come together and say everyone has to be part of the table. Everyone must have a chair around the table so that we are able to move this country forward.
But that's more like a wish list. You see, but that's more like a wish list. Whether it's actually going to happen is another story. Let me bring in what Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF, a significant party in the South African political landscape, said two days ago. In fact, he addressed the youth of Zimbabwe, and he's effectively invoked them to rise to save their country. What do you make of that rallying call by somebody from outside your country?
Well, it's a statement of solidarity. Julius realizes that there is a problem in Zimbabwe, and we want to thank him. We want to thank the EFF and all progressive forces and voices that realize that indeed Zimbabwe is the problem child of Africa. Zimbabwe is the sick country of the region, and we must be able to resolve issues in Zimbabwe if we are to resolve the challenges around people who are in South Africa, citizens from Zimbabwe who are flocking into South Africa to compete for the services in South Africa, to compete for the economic opportunities. That is not proper. But we have to make sure that Zimbabweans themselves are conscientized, mobilized, organized, and they are able to say none but ourselves. But of course, we need the support and solidarity of everyone in the region, and that's why we appreciate those calls.
Okay, we're going to wrap up shortly. So if Zimbabwe is the problem child and you appreciate the solidarity of Julius Malema, what then is your opinion of South Africa as a country in terms of its foreign relations with its neighbor, in terms of how it's managed South Africa-Zimbabwe relations before and how it's managed it right now?
Well, if South Africa had not turned a blind eye on the situation in Zimbabwe since 2000, we would be somewhere. Zimbabwe would be an entirely different place. But there has been a burying of the head in the sand, an ostrich mentality, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, false brotherhood on the basis of tyranny, on the basis of autocracy and dictatorship. That is what has, brought our countries to a standstill. We have to have democratic space. We have to have proper elections, free and fair elections. We must fix the rotten and toxic politics in Zimbabwe, and that requires South Africa to play a very leading role. What we have seen is South Africa giving solidarity to oppressors, solidarity to dictatorial tendencies, and solidarity and turning a blind eye to human rights abuses, to all sorts of violations and violence we have seen in the country.
Okay.
That is what has brought us where we are.
All right. Emerson Mnangagwa may listen to this live, may listen via a podcast, so he's going to hear you either way. What would you like to tell him directly as your last words?
Legacy is more important than what you are enjoying today. Nothing lasts forever. Power is temporary. Use it. Don't abuse it. Always remember that it is all about others, not yourself. And remember that when you do good for your country, you are doing it for yourself. And this is what must be understood by all leaders, that we all come and go. We all serve and live. And when we do live, we need to leave a legacy of harmony, unity, peace, love and tolerance, inclusion, so that we do not have the ghosts of persecution then following us, as we have seen in other countries where leaders are cursed, even their graves.
Let's see how he responds to that. I appreciate you giving up your time, Nelson Chamisa, Zimbabwean politician, former president of the CCC, Citizens Coalition for Change, but certainly, whether in politics or outside of politics, certainly wanting to be part of those many citizens, as Julius Malema suggested, needs to rise for change in that country. Now, you've been listening. What's your point of view? You tell me. You can call in right away. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi Makhalamele.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, the 280 million rand Estina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll in the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. The training program offered at the suspected military camp in White River, Mpumalanga, where 95 Libyan nationals were arrested 2 weeks ago, is said to have been illegal. And North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has ordered 300,000 young people to the country's north to help a region that has been devastated by floods. Details of these and other stories, 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound has ramp closure with no access to the N1 north at Diepkloof interchange due to a truck crash and spillage incident. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash at Buccleuch interchange, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound has a crash reported before the M25 Commercial Highway. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Key Ridge. The N3 eastbound has a crash reported at Cliffdale, and the M25 Commercial Highway is slow moving in the Besters area. In Cape Town, on the N2, protest action reported between Gordons Bay and Grabo with stop-go controls in place. The N2 inbound has a crash at Muway, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Krombum Road, and the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
So to me, the last time South Africa played in the Caribbean, it was to try and win a World Cup. But it's a different sort of cricket today, right?
Absolutely. It's different indeed. And Proteas Test captain Themba Bavuma says that he's quite confident that his seam attack will be strong enough to frustrate the West Indies when the two sides clash in the first test that is starting this afternoon. South Africa take on their first encounter of the two-match series with just 4 bowlers as Kagiso Rabada and Lungi Ngidi lead the attack, with Sima Gerald Kutsia out injured and Andrich Nortje not part of the squad. Bavuma says that he is still confident that they can ruffle their host feathers. So the match gets underway at 4 p.m. Then in rugby, Zimbabwe's rugby union are reportedly in talks with former All Blacks and Wallaby Stars as the newly crowned Rugby Africa champions are looking to ramp up their bid to qualify for the 2027 World Cup. The Sables won their first Rugby Africa Cup in 12 years on Sunday as they beat the Algeria 29-3 in the Uganda capital, Kampala. Having now risen to 28th in World's Rugby Test rankings, the highest position since they were 26th in November 2015, Zimbabwe have now turned their attention to securing a place at the next World Cup in Australia. Then moving on to football, Kukuni United captain Linda Mtambo says that he expects the newly signed Thabang Monare to play a leading role at the club from the dressing room to the field of play. This coming weekend, Kukuna will open their 2024-25 season campaign with an MTN 8 game against Cape Town City in Polokwane. Monare is a direct replacement for Kamagalo Mokocho, who has crossed the floor to the citizens, and Tambo says that he knows Monare very well, having played together at Jomo Cosmos and Pirates, and expects him to be influential at Babina Noko.
Myself and Thabang have a strong, relationship off the field. We've played together at Jomo Cosmos and at Pirates, and now we are here. I think Thabang is a big boy. He's been in the league for so many years. He knows what he needs to bring on the table. The other time, my colleagues were asking me, what can we expect? And I said, you can expect nothing but 100% from a player like of Thabang's quality. He knows what he needs to deliver. He knows his mandate as a player. He knows what he needs to do on the field. So with that, I don't have a lot of problems with obviously integrating him into the team. All he just needs to do is get to know his teammates. But what he needs to do on the field, he has millions in. So that's not much of a problem when it comes to him.
Elsewhere, veteran Argentina winger Angel Di Maria has decided against a return to his homeland and has extended his deal with Portuguese side Benfica. The 36-year-old has been in negotiations to join Rosario Central of Argentina, but had a change of heart. And remember, he helped Argentina win the World Cup and the Copa America, and has starred with Real Madrid, Manchester United, Juventus and Paris Saint-Germain. He joined Benfica back in 2023 and helped them to a second place in the Portuguese league. In Olympic news, South Africa's 400-meter champion Laith Pillay says that his body didn't respond as he would have expected it to at the Olympic Games. Pillay finished 7th in the men's 400-meter semi-finals with a time of 45.24 seconds. However, he believes that he had prepared enough and was in good form leading up to the event.
I mean, been battling with my body for the past few days. I still don't have an answer as to why or what. I mean, it's disheartening. Seeing the times I've run the season, knowing what I'm capable of, but not being able to show it matters most. And yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of a mental battle these past 2 days. Trying to figure out what's wrong, what to fix, what to change. And how do I get myself back into shape? I mean, last week I was in the shape of my life, eating PBs at training, and I get here and I'm showing the opposite. So, I mean, that's disheartening, But I have a relay to run. I must keep my chin up because it's not just about me, it's about us. I must keep my spirits high, stay motivated, and just be prepared to give my best come the relays.
And with him just mentioning that mental battle, it reminds me of what Noah Lyles was saying, especially as an Olympian, that everything is about mindset. He even credited a phone call with his therapist to helping him get in the right mindset before the men's 100-meter Olympics final. So I thought, let me just ask a sports psychologist about why the mind is important when competing at their highest level, especially at an event like the Olympics. And here's what Dr. Gitumetse Mashego said.
Competing at the Olympics or any great competition requires all athletes to ensure that they are okay in terms of their mind, because the mind will carry you even when your body says no. So it's very important to prioritize the mind, because that is where actually everything manifests before it manifests physically. So when athletes step onto that track, step onto that field and do what it is that they have been training for all this time, it's important that they make sure that they're in the right frame of mind, because of course there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of realities that they are facing, but they actually need to to do well in their mind before it manifests physically. And that is so important. And because they are also human beings, they have their own things that they're going through. So they need to ensure that when they step into that field, that they're actually in a calm state and actually see themselves doing well and winning against themselves, in terms of how they competed previously and doing the best that they can for the event. And it's very key to ensure that you're always taking charge of the mind, and because there in the mind there's lots of power to be manifested. Before it manifests physically, it happens in the mind.
Well, in terms of results on how Team SA performed today so far, Edmund du Plessis is through to the men's 800-meter semi-final after clocking 1 minute 45.58 seconds in his heat event. Brian Rotz is through to the men's high jump final. He finished jumping 2.24 meters in the qualifications. And then Hamish Lovemore advanced to the men's kayak singles 1,000-meter semi-finals. And don't forget that tonight, Sean Maswangaye and Wade van Niekerk are in the 200-meter semi-finals at 2 minutes past 8 and 18 minutes past 8 respectively, while Miranda Coetzee is in the 400-meter semi-final around 1 minute past 9. But that's it. It is a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
So just a quick one. What do you think about the power of the mind in winning in sport, assuming all talent is equal?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But as I did mention, I found it interesting what Noah Lyles was saying, that he's got, I think he's that. He was suffering from depression.
Mm-hmm.
He has health issues. He's got asthma issues and stuff like that. So he was saying that as much as he had all those challenges, his mind had to be set. In the semifinals, I think he finished third best, and he had to call his therapist to help him in terms of doing well.
And that just shows you mind power is number one.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
The Olympic medalist, Tatiana Smith, representing South Africa.
Tears of joy will certainly flow for Tatiana Smith.
Smith, silver.
I think this one is much different than any of my races. I'm so fortunate to get a medal.
For the love of the game. Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's the first elimination challenge, and to stay in the competition, the bottom 6 contestants must channel their inner Italian by baking a delicious handmade pizza using leftovers from the fridge. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster Junior. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get into other issues. By the way, someone said, where is it? Chamisa, you've let us down. You've gave us false hope. All you could say was God is in it, from Kenneth. Further comments and thoughts with that conversation I had with Nelson Chamisa, you can, do it right away. WhatsApp, text, voice notes, social media, Twitter, or the X platform, Facebook. Just add your comments. Tell me what you think. 0614 104 107 to WhatsApp, to call in 086 000 2032. Right. Let's get on to other issues in the USA now. In fact, the Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has officially picked Tim Walz as her vice presidential running mate. So maybe South Africans don't put too much currency to that, but certainly it's a big deal, I think, in the USA. The question is he the right choice? What does he stand for? How will he aid the presidential campaign, if that's really the plan? And politically, can Kamala Harris occupy the most powerful and influential seat in not just in the USA, but around the globe, like it or not. All that links to that running mate. So my guest is Tricia C.K. Hoffler, who is the CEO of the C.K. Hoffler firm and a former National Bar Association president, also counsel to the civil rights icon that South Africa knows pretty well, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Tricia Hoffler, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. You're live with the National Pulse.
Well, it's so good to be here again, and particularly to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. So greetings from New York. I'm in New York today at a National Medical Association conference. So it's so great to be here this morning, or your time afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. So what for you is near and dear to your heart? Is it the appointment of the running mate, or in this case here, the potential elevation to the highest office in the land of Kamala Harris?
Well, it's all of the above. You know, I've met Kamala Harris like many of us. I've been a fan of Vice President Harris from the beginning. You know, in this country, like many countries, when it comes to women candidates, especially women of color, you know, the criteria is often different. We know this. This is something that's global. It's not unique to the U.S. But Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, has forever been, for a very long time, been supremely qualified, the most qualified when she presented herself in the presidential elections, you know, in 2020. And so I've been a big fan of hers because of her stance on various issues. So to see her elevated to be our nominee for the Democratic Party and to see the outpouring of support, the momentum from all walks of life in this country gives me a great deal of hope. And that's what I mean by it's near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
The fact that she was a trial lawyer like I'm a trial lawyer. She's African-American like I'm African-American. All of those things, that's just really a bonus and speaks volumes to the global aspect of her candidacy. And then she appointed a good vice presidential candidate that I think is going to be able to bridge the gap in this country.
Well, let's talk about that vice presidential candidate. I mean, tell me more about him. And then to pick up your point, how does he bridge the gap? Meaning, what role does a running mate play in a way that we don't have a running mate in South Africa, for example?
Well, one thing that we know statistically is that a vice presidential candidate usually doesn't hurt if they just toe the line. Now, in the case of J.D. Vance, he's actually hurting the candidacy of Donald Trump, but I digress. As it relates to Governor Tim Walz, he is someone who is a progressive. So he's a progressive Democrat, meaning he is not all the way to the left liberal, although there are those who say that, but he's very progressive. I've had personal interaction with him when I was president of the National Bar Association. This was during the tragedy of George Floyd. And of course, he was governor of that state. Mm-hmm. And he reached out to me and other African-American leaders to find out what he could do to prepare or to be more progressive in his state to address the very, very significant issues that arose as a result of George Floyd's violent murder. And so I had personal interaction with him. He's very humble. He's very much, in the way we express it here in this country, the guy next door. He's a Midwesterner. He's got a lot of appeal. He's a former coach. He's not a lawyer, which is pretty unusual. I mean, Donald Trump's not a lawyer either, but he's not a lawyer. And a lot of times we see lawyers that are in these key positions. But he's very relatable. He's very likable. Okay. How do I think he helps the ticket? He mixes well with Kamala Harris.
And will he, you know, in Olympic terms now, if Kamala Harris is close to the finish line, is he able to get her over the finish line and cross that tape first?
I think he is, because of the momentum and the enthusiasm for the two of them on the ticket. It's going to be a tight race. It should not be a tight race, but it's going to be a tight race. And I think that he can help her get across the finish line. It's not Governor Walz alone. It's the ticket. She has galvanized so many supporters and some people that we didn't even expect. And so he is the person who can help close the deal. So I think, yes, he can. Absolutely.
You touched on, identity politics earlier on. How much of a big deal is that in the USA in terms of race issues? And you alluded to that even from the beginning. Are you white? Are you black? Are you African American? Are you African American, African Asian American? How much of an issue is that in your country, particularly when it comes to winning or losing an election?
It's huge. It's huge. But in this instance, there's one thing, though, that I will say. It's huge, and from every orifice of what creates the United States of America, race and gender are huge issues. But on occasion, like now, when you have a Kamala Harris that is galvanized and who's enthused, even the Democratic base, and certainly and independents and some Republicans, despite the fact that she has, she's African American, she also is of Indian descent, she's also a woman, she has all of these things that typically in this country would count against her. They are right now moving in her favor because of the strength of the person and the candidate that she is. So yes, race, gender, they're huge. We're living in some would say a very, very divided country, a country that's divided based on race, based on gender as a secondary factor, but it's certainly there. We can't forget the events of January 6th, 2021, I'm sorry, those events were devastating for this country.
Would you say, therefore, in conclusion, that the point that you made, that what was a negative for a potential presidential candidate, I'm thinking about Reverend Jesse Jackson in the past, now would be a positive because the country is ripe for major change?
I think we could conclude that. But I will say this: living here and living in this reality, race and gender are still things that people hold against us. It's just that with the convergence of factors, the timing, there's another factor. Many people find it to be absolutely positively unacceptable to give Donald Trump, former President Trump, another shot. They just can't imagine or fathom him being president of the United States again in this country. Many people feel that way. And It's so interesting how what was previously negative is now positive.
And let's leave it at that. Can a negative be a positive? Tricia C.K. Hoffler, thank you for your time.
Babina Noko returns to the battlefield with a great strategy to display a melody of victory. But the citizens are shaking their heads. Eric Tinkler's boys are confident that they will land successfully in the last four. This is the MTN 8 quarterfinal. Wafa Wafa. Catch Sekhukhune United FC and Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 10 August at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
Alan Hatherley of South Africa, as he steps up to receive the bronze medal at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He is the first South African medal in cycling since 1912. Rudolph Lewis won the individual time trial. Congratulations, Alan Hatherley. Your country is proud of you.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
By the way, if you want to join the National Pulse WhatsApp channel for quick alerts, just WhatsApp us and just say, please add me, 0614104107, right? Okay, let's talk about this. Your insurer makes many promises, but can they back it up? It's key, right? Outsurance can. And that's why they, statistically, the best insurance company in South Africa. Outsurance has consistently had the best ombudsman for short-term insurance results, that is, for the past 11 years. And they've been awarded the best short-term insurer by News24 for the past 2 years. So why would you want to be with anyone else? Well, SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT, O-U-T, to 30754. Or get to the website, outsurance.coza, for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. License, insurer, and FSP, T's and C's, and information available online.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Tell you what, the Master's Office is certainly very critical in terms of the legal affairs of South Africa and what happens next. There's been lots of allegations of corruption and inefficiencies, and therefore really a lack of service delivery within the Master's Office, and many other incidences around maladministration and more and more. So what does all that mean? How is it going to affect what's going on in the Master's Office, and how does it affect you and I? How is the office itself coping with all this publicity? What is their next plan in terms of big turnarounds? Advocate Kanyani Matibe is the acting chief master in the Master's Office. Appreciate your time, Advocate Matibe. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the SAFM listeners as well.
Thank you. Well, you've probably heard in the intro lots of questions I'm asked about, certainly a negative perception. It could be a negative real perception. What is your thoughts on the workings and the state of the Master's Office, and more importantly, then what needs to happen next?
Thank you for that question. The Masters is indeed a critical entity that supplies services to all South Africans in respect of the sister states, trusts, insolvencies, curatorships, as well as the Guardian Fund in respect of minor children whose parents might be deceased or untraceable heirs. So we have been in the media in recent times, not for good news, but I think we want to assure the public that everything is under hand. We do have our processes in place, and we are dealing with some of the issues that have been raised. You would remember that there were issues that were raised by the Law Society of South Africa in Parliament last year in October, and some of the issues were long queues, unreliable systems, insufficient staff, and allegations of bribery and corruption as regards the Master's Office. So these are the issues that we're dealing with now, because we have come up with intervention plans and strategies to deal with the issues that had been submitted by the Law Society as well as other stakeholders.
All right. So what would that intervention plan or turnaround plan be? And I'm looking at this. I understand that it's been described as a nest for corruption. I mean, that is just that's a damning allegation, right? And I do know that 13 senior managers have been suspended as well. So in terms of, therefore, there's a two-way turnaround plan, the internal turnaround plan, and then the public perception turnaround plan. How do you go about doing that?
So we did realize that a lot of these issues that are brought forward are as a result of our manual processes. When processes are executed manually, there is always opportunity to have people manipulate these processes. And we are on a journey of modernizing our services, all of the master services. We've already begun with the sister states, where we want to cut off the interaction between our staff as well as members of the public. And we've rolled out a sister state online system in December on the 14th of December 2023, and to date we've had 8,141 cases that have been registered, removing 8,000 people out of the queues of the Masters. So dealing with the issues of bribery and dealing with the issues of long queues in the Master's Office. But as regards the issues of corruption, Ashraf, you would have seen that the SIU conducted an investigation under Proclamation RO7 by the President of the Republic, and they issued recommendations to the department, and with about 14, 15 staff members, not all of them senior managers, have been placed on precautionary suspension whilst we are investigating some of those, and whilst we're finalizing disciplinary hearings on the issues they are suspected of having or allegedly having committed.
And therefore, in terms of the impact, as we get to news time, the impact that it has on the public, because clearly it compromises all that we need as part of the greater South African public, isn't it?
Of course it does. The bad public perception of the Master's Office, and I want to assure that not all Master's officials are rotten apples. And as well, I think we are also careful to not make the assumption that the people that have been placed on suspension are guilty. We are assuming they're innocent until proven otherwise, and they're given an opportunity to answer to the allegations or contraventions that have been put before them. So what we are putting processes and systems in place to ensure that we deal with that. The first thing we engaged with stakeholders about a week ago, TISA, the Attorneys Association, will be putting in a corruption tip-off line where it would be anonymous and we would be able to follow up on this, where in the past these things were not reported to us.
Well, let's hope we have some good news, much better news, besides the commitment to turn things around here at the Master's Office. Maybe we'll do that sometime in the future. Advocate Kanyari Matibe, thank you for your time. Much appreciate you sharing that with us here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf Garda. The top stories, Sawa, the Estina dairy farm case is struck off the roll and plans to recall Gwamanda as the Joburg mayor. A very good afternoon. The 280 million rand Estina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll in the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. The judgment follows the defense application where they argued that the state is not ready and has not made a full disclosure of its investigation to the accused. Judge Celeste Reindeer says that the delays are indeed unreasonable and cannot proceed under these circumstances. The case emanates from alleged looting of the Free State Agriculture Department between July 2012 and April 2014. The training program offered at the suspected military camp in White River, Mpumalanga, where 95 Libyan nationals were arrested 2 weeks ago, is said to have been illegal. The Private Security Industry Authority, PSIRA, says the program was not in line with its standards. It released its preliminary findings into the camp and found that private security company MDSS violated various criminal statutes for operating at the camp. The company and its directors have since been served with suspension notices and cannot provide any security training or services until the investigation is finalized. Briefing the media in Pretoria, PSIRA's Manabela Chauke says the makeup of the camp was a red flag.
The makeup of the camp itself, the infrastructure that is there. I'm sure you've seen the many photos that we're doing around. We do not have such type of infrastructure for ordinary security training, unless if they are doing an advanced tactical courses and so on and so on. But these ones we don't have. I'm sure you've seen that they have trenches that they've digged. We don't do trenches. We don't do this type of those type of things. So there's many other things that we've seen. We had the opportunity to look into the programs because we were doing the investigation. So we made much more firm conclusions as to the type of training that we're done there.
A 57-year-old traditional leader who was in a peace committee mediating between learners at Isihlahla Senkosi High School in Nongoma, Northern KZN, has been shot and killed. Last week, a grade 12 learner was stabbed to death by another learner at the school. Teaching and learning at the institution has been compromised. Police spokesperson Robert Netsunda.
Police in Nongoma have opened a case of murder for investigation after a 57-year-old man was shot and killed at his home at Kwamosi on Tuesday evening. Information at this stage indicates that the victim and two other men were seated outside the house when unknown suspects emerged from the bushes and opened fire at him. He was certified dead at the scene with multiple gunshot wounds. The other two men were not injured. The motive of the killing is unknown at this stage. However, the deceased was a local Induna.
The ANC in Joburg says plans are underway to recall the city's mayor, the Al Jama party's Kabelo Gwamanda. Last week, the leader of Al Jama, Khanif Hendricks, said Gwamanda would not be stepping down. Civil organizations have also called for Gwamanda's resignation, saying he has failed to ensure that basic services are delivered and has allowed the introduction of a 200 rand surcharge for prepaid electricity customers. The ANC's Masilo Sirekele says the party is set to take over the city's mayoral position.
As things stand now, we are finalizing the engagement with our coalition partners. We have already engaged the Al-Jama, and in principle they have agreed that when the time comes, Kabelo Kwamanda will vacate the position of mayorship and give space to the African National Congress to take over the position of mayorship. In terms of the time frames, you will understand this kind of engagements are complex. We are anticipating that in the next few days we'll conclude the conversation, but there's a sort of back and forth.
And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered 300,000 young people to the country's north to help a region there devastated by floods. The city of Sinuiju and the neighboring county of Uiju have been severely affected by the flooding of the Amnok River due to heavy monsoon rains forcing the evacuation of thousands of people there. The BBC's Celia Hatton has more.
Kim Jong-un has described the group that's been dispatched to the flood-hit north as a youth shock brigade. At a ceremony in Pyongyang to mark their departure, he said the young people would deliver a facelift to the region by building 4,400 new homes to replace 4,000 homes that were destroyed. North Korea has not disclosed how many people have been killed in the floods in North Pyongan province, but South Korean monitors say their neighbours' losses have been substantial. South Korean media outlets estimate that more than 1,000 North Koreans have been killed.
The top story at 4 o'clock, the 280 million rand Estina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll in the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. For SAFM News, Kimudupima Khalemeli.
In sports, Proteas win the toss, select to bat first. Trucha joins Richards Bay on a one-year deal, and Phelps calls for lifetime ban for those that are doping. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. Eskempa-Hleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street, and the N12 westbound has ramp closure with no access to the N1 north at Diepkloof Interchange due to a truck crash and spillage incident queuing traffic. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash reported before the M25 Commercial Highway. The N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg is queuing towards Market Road, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the M3 Philip Hosanna Drive outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road, and Chapman's Peak Drive is closed due to rockfalls. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
The Olympic medalist, Tatiana Smith, representing South Africa.
Tears of joy will certainly flow for Tatiana Smith.
Smith, silver.
I think this one is much different than any of my races. I'm so fortunate to get a medal.
For the love of the game.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarat Park, Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under-15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under-15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under-15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I see lots of people want to talk about that conversation I had with Nelson Chamisa around Zimbabwean issues. You can call in 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, voice notes and text 0614 104 107. But also, don't wait for that. You can also just tweet it out on the X platform as well as on SAFM Radio. Just share on Facebook. Just share whatever your thoughts may be. And also just the general conversation we've had. What for you are the biggest issues that moves the national pulse today? Now, in between two conversations coming up, both in the Western Cape, one around a unique coalition between the Good Party, and I'm saying coalition between the Good Party and Rise Mzansi, and the other one around Airbnb issues in the Western Cape, coming up shortly. Before that, you've been aware, SAFM has its 88th birthday. I mean, that's something, isn't it? So, we're giving away 88,000 rands in cash, okay? So that's not to one person, to 10 people, 88,000 rands, so 8,800 rands per person. Now, you can be this winner. What do you have to do, okay? Number one, you obviously have to stay tuned to SAFM. So you're doing that right away, okay? Wherever you are, audio as well as visual, you are connected. That's great, right? Number two, note this, it's an SMS. You must SMS, not WhatsApp. SMS to, and this is the message, SAFM 88. So you need to say SAFM 88 on the SMS, and you put on your name, and then you do that to this SMS number, 41391. Nowhere else, okay? Just that SMS, 41391. Now, the entries close for the entire competition on the 30th of August, but for now, and we'll be drawing out a winner just now, I think in about 20 minutes' time, okay? What I'll be doing is this, we'll be calling you. It could be you, it could be somebody else. We're calling you, and when we call you, when I call you, you have to answer not like how's it, not good afternoon, not good morning, not leave all that out. There's only one way you can answer. You must say SAFM 88. If you answer that way, SAFM 88, and you'd be that person we're going to be calling, then you will win 8,800 rands. That's not too intelligent. That's like simple stuff. So work on it right now. SAFM 88. I could be calling you in about 20 minutes. I'm checking keys out. I think he's saying, 20 minutes time. It could be you getting the call. Listen to the show. Stick around with your phone. Make sure nobody else calls you in between that. Otherwise, you're going to miss out big time. Right, let's talk about issues in the Western Cape right after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I know we are in whatever, coalition season, multi-party coalition season, a government of national unity season. It's been a whole new vocabulary that's been part of our lives, right? So an extension of that is what I think is a unique, coalition, partnership between Rise Mzansi and the Good Party. And whether it's the parties or whether it's one member, I don't know. We're going to find out exactly, because you've obviously heard about this, the Rise Mzansis, who was the candidate for the province, and I'm talking about Akolile Ntwala. Well, he's been now appointed as the Good Party's new City of Cape Town councillor. And I remember he was a candidate itself for the provincial leadership of Rise Mzansi. So what does this really mean? Now, earlier on today, on the SAFM Breakfast Show, I know that John Karika spoke and got the views of the Good Party. But let's get the views of Rise Mzansi themselves from the man who is completely central to this. Akolile, thank you for your time and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
All right, help me understand what has actually happened here and what's the motivation behind this.
So this is essentially what I would call political alignment, consolidation between the two parties, the Good Party and Rise Mzansi. This is also a process that started before the elections, actually. It's not something that started now, where conversations between the leaders of the two parties happened. But because then the election got on, those conversations weren't finished. I was then approached by the leaders of the Good Party to say there is a vacancy in council, and based on my work, my experience, they would like me to occupy that seat. Also as a way of restarting the conversation in consolidating the two parties.
Okay, so is it a case of they wanted you in in this case here in the city of Cape Town because they see you as an asset, or they wanted you in because they see the collaboration between the two parties as paramount? I mean, which one is more significant here?
It's both, because the parties are aligned, particularly in the Western Cape, I would say, in relation to myself. It is about the issues that I would have championed in the organizations that I've been part of, but also within Rise Mzansi, particularly around spatial justice, which is a central focus of the Good Party. That's some of the work that Brett Heron has been doing in the provincial legislature.
Now, so do you see it from a Rise Mzansi side? Do you see it as, and I say you by extension, your party, as another opportunity to effectively put out a shop window in terms of what Rise Mzansi's candidates can do and grow from a relatively small party, something just far more meaningful, 2 years down the line?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's something that a lot of people were questioning us on before the elections, that we don't have experience in government and governance. And it is for us to show what we mean when we say we want to bring new politics and want to bring new leaders. We already have an MEC in Gauteng. We have 2 members of parliament, one of them chairperson of the biggest and important committee, SCOPA. And now we'll have a seat in council, and we have to show how local government work must be done, particularly for the most marginalized within the city of Cape Town.
Now, in doing that, do you then, when you are in council, do you then serve at that point in time the Good Party or Rise Mzansi?
I'll be part of the Good Party in terms of its caucus. I'll be meeting with its caucus soon to get an idea where I will be situated, what I will be focusing on. But because these two parties are very similar, there won't really be that much difference in terms of the issues that we both will be pushing as parties, because we are both social democratic parties in terms of ideology. The values are similar, and the issues in our manifesto, if you were to look at it, there are similar issues as well.
Do you have to be a member of the Good Party to represent them?
It had to be that, so I occupy dual membership. Of course, this is something that is quite new to many people, but it's not new in the South African politics. This is what happened in 2010 between the ID and the DA, where members of the ID had to have dual membership before the two parties merged to be one party.
And that constitutionally is, I take it, that's okay.
Yeah, if the constitutions of the parties allow it, it's up to the parties' own constitutions and the decisions that are made by the leaders of those parties.
It's interesting you mentioned the ID party, because that would be Patricia de Lille's party before. So the common person in both cases, both I would say unprecedented before, would be Patricia de Lille, right?
Yeah. I mean, she has that experience, but a lot of these conversations we've been having with the Secretary General of the party, which is Brett Heron.
Yeah, I just want to get clarity on this. Would the approach that, or the agreement between these two aligned parties, would it have been from Good Party to Rise? Because remember, the party that's got the vacancy is Good Party, not Rise, right? So would they have approached Rise Mzansi to say, we have a space, please fill it up? Or would they have said, we want this person, and in this case, this person being yourself and no one else?
It was an approach that said they want me, the person, myself, but I guess the alignment of the parties made it easier, because if I were in a party that's different to the Good Party's values and ideology, it would have been a bit difficult. So it was easier for me and for them to approach me, because I'm within Rise Mzansi.
Let me just turn this around as a last thought. I mean, wouldn't this be a way of the Good Party effectively, and we've used this word before with the ANC, committing political suicide, effectively suggesting they need to, this is not a coalition, this is actually ensuring somebody from the outside is part of them, which means if you do well, there's a better chance people will vote for your party, which is Rise Mzansi.
I mean, there will be ongoing conversations. The same can be said for Rise Mzansi. Now that I'll be occupying a good council seat, I also have a role within Rise Mzansi as the provincial convener. I serve in the National Leadership Collective. So the same could be said in relation to the work that I have to do for Rise Mzansi. So we understand the potential risks, but these are parties that have committed to start a conversation or to continue a conversation that was started before the election in terms of aligning politically, and to also to show that the maturity that is needed within South African politics and political parties is something that we can model and bring people together to work for a better purpose.
Well,
essentially, this is about the people of Cape Town.
Well, we're certainly living in very, very different times. I think you've obviously got two T-shirts now. Hopefully you've got two war cries, so you can say both, Viva the Good Party and Viva Rise Mzansi, both in one go. You've done that, right? You're working on your war cry now.
When the Brett Heron was at the policy conference of Rise Mzansi in 2023, one of the takeaway was that the good people will rise, and that's what we're doing here.
All right, got that. The good people will rise, and they have risen. Well, I'm not saying so. That perhaps would be the words of Akolile. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. So there you are, the Rise Mzansi member, now part of the Good Party, Akolile Notwala. I wonder what you make of that. And you think that's the way it's going to be, where you can have dual membership in certain parties if it's allowed, and then serve in council, serve as an MP maybe. Maybe you may say we have it anyway. You have parties who publicly criticize each other like absolute enemies, and then they become chummies just after an election. That's the way it goes. Okay. Your thoughts? 086 000 2032, but you can also WhatsApp us to 0614 104 107.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For superfast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
Alan Hatherley of South Africa, as he steps up to receive the bronze medal at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He is the first South African medal in cycling since 1912. Rudolf Lewis won the individual time trial. Congratulations, Alan Hatherley. Your country is proud of you.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So here's some facts I'll tell you for nothing. I think Cape Town has amongst the highest numbers of Airbnbs in the world. So that's good news, isn't it? Well, maybe not good news. Depends on your perspective, isn't it? On the other hand, there are other countries, other cities in other parts of the world, like Barcelona, for example, and others, where there's been a clampdown of Airbnbs. Now, why would that be the case? One would think, listen, whatever revenue the residents of a city can attain would be good for them. It means more taxes, more income for the council. But are there conundrums that we need to be aware of? So I picked up an interesting piece put together by Ash Muller, who's effectively a property champion, and she tweets under Ask Ash. So we thought, let's talk to her about that. So Ash, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. So let's start with that first fact. Cape Town, how many Airbnbs does Cape Town have, and where does that fit in the pecking order of the world listing of Airbnbs?
So they've probably got around 25,000 Airbnb listings, we definitely have the most. If you're going to look at blocks of the CBD, we definitely have the most compared to a lot of other metropolitan kind of cities. But I mean, New York, Barcelona, those guys are in a completely different league when we're talking about the number of listings. They've probably got 3 times the amount.
Okay, but the number for the size of the city is hugely significant. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I think also what's significant is the pattern that developers are taking with the sort of development offering that they're putting out there. You'll see there's so much of these micro-style apartments where the sales pitch from the developers is actually buy this so that you can do short-term rentals and make an income and diversify your assets.
Okay, which would be very different to what we may have thought before, which was, a person typically has a home or an apartment, and now they realize maybe they're going away, they can maybe put it up as an Airbnb. You're saying, effectively, people are positioning their new purchases on the basis that it's not residential, but in reality it's pitched to be put up as an Airbnb, and that's significant, right?
Yeah, I mean, when Airbnb started, forever ago, the idea was to, rent out a space on your couch, a space in your house, a space where you actually live. And obviously, over time, they've evolved into this mega business where, their whole businesses can be based on Airbnb, where they can lease out multiple apartments in their own portfolio and manage the apartments themselves and pay very minimal fees. But I think, in the case of Cape Town, what's interesting is, Barcelona, you mentioned earlier, they, by 2028, are going to ban the short-term listing of Airbnb in their city because the residents are basically cut full of, high rentals and not being able to live in their own city. But Cape Town, our tourism numbers are nowhere near Barcelona. We've got maybe, I don't know the exact number, but probably less than 3 million tourists coming to Cape Town per year. And Barcelona's got about 10. And then, New York's probably got about 60 million. So, there's some serious pressure on those cities when it comes to their rentals and the people wanting to actually stay in those apartments.
So do you think that, the rise of Airbnbs in a city like the city of Cape Town, is that a good thing for the city? Is it a good thing for those that own these properties and rent them out? But is there a downside to it, as Barcelona has suggested?
So in the case of Cape Town, it's a catch-22 because in South Africa, we do have this huge housing issue, this huge affordability issue where, a lot of people can't actually afford to stay close to where they're working in the cities. But that being said, one of our biggest selling points as South Africa is tourism. And, the city of Cape Town specifically, they've got a mandate. They want to basically double our tourism stats by 2035. And that's why they've introduced this digital nomad visa where they're going to encourage nomads to come camp out in Cape Town on short-term rentals and then, work abroad. And our hotels, as well as our short-term rentals, they're already quite full. So there certainly is a demand for more. And I think that tourism will come, and I think Cape Town's going to encourage it. But again, you've got to balance that out with the needs of the locals.
And is the rise of Airbnbs in Cape Town and the potential higher rentals they can achieve, is that squeezing out, again, people potentially wanting to just rent, people from the city, not on holiday, that just needs a place to rent and they can't buy? Is that happening?
Well, in the sense that when these developers are building, just this week I saw, a building was sold for 150 million rand in Cape Town CBD. Now that's definitely going to be earmarked for a mega project with smaller apartments. And just last month, a development launch of 250 apartments coming online, also micro styles for short-term letting. And that kind of immediately cuts out anyone wanting to come and rent long-term and, work in the city. And it's quite a lot of apartments coming online at a time.
Okay. What about, how does then, so you're suggesting that there's no discussion around a clampdown of Airbnbs in its current regulation and form in the city of Cape Town, right?
No, not in the near future, because we're still going to encourage the tourists. We still want them here. And even when regulation does kick in, like, for instance, with New York, they basically implemented that owners and tenants, they can't rent out their apartment or home for fewer than 30 days. Yes, New York is still buzzing with their short-term rentals.
So I was in Cape Town like 2 weeks ago. Many may be aware. I was there for a family bereavement, and some of us stayed in a hotel and others stayed in an Airbnb. And I think all sides felt they got a good deal, right? Which then gets me to ask you this. Do you think that the rise of Airbnbs, on the one hand, has created this unexpected entrepreneur in terms of property rental entrepreneur? On the other hand, it has impacted on occupancy of hotels?
Yeah, but in the case of Cape Town, our hotels are pretty full. I mean, I think their occupancy rates are probably in the 80% margin. Our hotels are doing well. And I think there is room for more Airbnbs, especially the entrepreneurs that come and, make their little businesses out of it.
Is there one final nugget you'd like to share around, Airbnbs and property?
So many nuggets. You'd have to follow me on Twitter for all the nuggets. But, yeah, I think one thing that I do find interesting is, and I did mention in the tweet, is that Mexico, I visited a few years ago, and obviously they have very high crime rates. But I was amazed at how many people were enjoying themselves in the streets and the restaurants, and there were military men with balaclavas and tankers and guns present everywhere, controlling the cartels and making sure that it's safe for tourists. And I kind of think no matter which way South Africa goes with our crime, which is a huge problem, I still think tourism is going to be a huge selling point for South Africa, and I still think the demand for short-term rentals and Airbnbs and entrepreneurs that come out of that is going to increase in the near future.
And suddenly everybody listens, you just feel so much better about their country, about our country. Appreciate your time, Ash Muller, property broking champion. So you can follow her on Ask Ash on the X or the Twitter platform. Thank you for your time, much appreciated. Right, let's get to the news headlines now. Just gone 4:30. Here's Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, the 280 million rand Estina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll in the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. Residents of Mafube village in Middelburg in Mpumalanga have pleaded with the provincial government to improve the issue of scholar transport in their area. And 3 men in Britain have become the first to be convicted of violent disorder since a wave of rioting broke out last week. And those are your headlines. A full news update with Greg at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways as a stationary vehicle after Rivonia Road exit. The N1 northbound in Sunninghill is queuing towards Rivonia Road exit. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview is queuing on the link to the N12 east at Gululis interchange. And the N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash at Buccleuch interchange. In KZN, the N3 southbound in Van Reenen's Pass has a crash reported near Van Reenen town, so expect delays. The N3 eastbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck after the Linfield Park exit, and the M25 Commercial Highway westbound slow moving in the Bestas area. In Cape Town, Campground Road is slow moving between Main Road and Palmyra Road. Lisbeck Parkway outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway. Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock, and Main Road northbound slow moving at Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
So, Tumi, we spoke cricket earlier on. That game's underway?
It is underway, and the Proteas won the toss, and they elected to bat first in the first of the 2 tests against West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. South Africa currently sitting on 14 for no loss after 7 overs, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with the results there. In football, Richards Bay have announced Brendan Trutter as the new head coach to replace Vusimusi Vilakazi on a 1-year deal. Vilakazi parted ways with the club on Monday, despite signing a 1-year deal after winning the PSL promotion playoffs in June. And a change of coaches at Richards Bay has been influenced by the arrival of new sponsors Pakwe Gas. Meanwhile, Cape Town City attacker Hashim Domingo says that he's all set and ready to turn over a new page at the club following his Raja Casablanca stint. The 28-year-old had barely settled in Morocco when his spell ended early last season due to a breach of contract, and the matter being referred to FIFA. City moved quickly to sign Domingo, who wants to put the Raja saga behind him.
To be honest, that is a book that I've closed, and I don't want to open that book again. It's an experience that I went through, and I just want to leave it there. I don't want to get into that. Obviously, when it comes to Bafana, I would like to tick that box. But I'll just take it one game at a time. My focus now is just to play, to continue working hard, and just not lose the love of the game. You know, I felt like I've lost it over the previous year, being on that side. I just want to just want to enjoy my football again. So, and I think then everything else will fall into place. Most definitely. I mean, it's been, I think, 11 years since I've been in Cape Town, so it does help. I feel at home, I am at home. Also the club, the way it's run, really makes it easy. So I think it's a good thing for me as well.
Meanwhile, in Olympic news, Eliud Kipchoge says that he's looking forward to making history as the first human being to win back-to-back marathon titles on Saturday. He'll take to the streets and he'll be looking to become the first person to win 3 consecutive marathon titles at the Games. Then former Olympic champion Michael Phelps has called for a lifetime ban for anyone who tests positive for a banned substance. And Phelps was just responding to the Chinese doping scandal that saw 23 swimmers testing positive ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, and some of them also competing at the Paris Games. Phelps says he actually subjected himself to extra testing in the lead up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics, where he broke Mark Spitz's iconic record with the 8 gold medals to alleviate any doubts that he was racing clean. Elsewhere, Chelsea are working on a deal to sign Spanish forward Samu Omorodion from Atletico Madrid, and selling him will help the Spanish side raise funds to buy their new signing Julian Alvarez of Argentina. In rugby, the Wallabies are set to be without star tight head prop Tanila Tupou for the Rugby Championship opener against the Springboks at a sold-out Suncorp Stadium on Saturday. The 28-year-old's absence is not owing to an injury, but rather an off-field personal issue. Instead, Alan Alatua will retain his starting place at the tight head prop and will also captain the Wallabies. He will be partnered at scrum with 24-year-old Isaac Kalia, who made his Wallabies debut in the series against the Wales. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
What do you think of the cricket series? I mean, you just started the one in the West Indies because it's a completely new team from the one-day team or T20, as expected, right?
Yeah, as expected, obviously. I'm hoping that they do well. I love Test cricket. It's just that South Africa hasn't been playing enough Test cricket, so it'll be interesting to see how they're going to perform, especially at Trinidad and Tobago, because it's not going to be easy for them.
There was a time that we had a formidable Test cricket team. And I'm not talking of 1970 because that was not my team. I'm just making the point. I'm talking of the team of, when you had Graham Smith as the captain, you had Ashwell Prince, Sashi Mamla, Jacques Cullis. I can rattle off all those names. Ask me to rattle off the new names, I'm going to be struggling. I promise you I'm struggling. It's not bad. It just shows you it's new. I think I know. Yeah. He comes in as a batsman. I think he bats at number 4 now, right? So I'll give you the hot tip. Yeah.
I'll give it to you.
Get it, yeah. All right, perfect. Well, I hope Temba does well, just so that you know.
Hopefully.
Just so you know that. Right, more sports in an hour, right?
Babina Noko returns to the battlefield with a great strategy to display a melody of victory. But the citizens are shaking their heads. Eric Tinkler's boys are confident that they will land successfully in the last 4. This is the MTN8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa. Catch Sekhukhune United FC and Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 10 August at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hey, Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile. Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
Since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
Alan Hatherley of South Africa, as he steps up to receive the bronze medal at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He is the first South African medal in cycling since 1912. Rudolph Lewis won the individual time trial. Congratulations, Alan Hatherley. Your country is proud of you.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
We'll have that winner for the competition, SAFM 88, coming up shortly. And if you wish to join the WhatsApp channel, 0614 104 107, just say add me. You'll be in, okay? Let's get to the markets now with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Account Manager at Markway Fund Managers. Good chatting as always, right? You've got some JSE half-yearly results as well as local global markets, right?
Yes, afternoon and to all your listeners. Just kicking off with the JC results. The guys' performance was rather stable. They maintained some profitability, grew their non-trading revenue, reflecting their diversification efforts. As we see now, they account at least closer to 40% of their revenue, and this helps at times where you experience weak economic periods like these ones. They can help stabilize their profit margins as they were flat. At the back of, as we see now today with their trading equity was down, which kept their profits stable. And however, post-election, the guys are seeing a recovery as investors see political stability and therefore are coming back in the market and investing. We can see just with the likes of today's performance, the JSE was high above 80,000 level. After recent losses, we saw tracking global peers during the week. The improved performance has to do more with investors trying to shrug off some of the global economic outlook developments that have happened. So the guys went in and bought a lot of dips, triggered by the fact that the Japanese central bank has calmed markets, saying that it would not continue to hike rates in this kind of volatile market. This will help stop some nervous selling. However, Ashraf, the current market volatility remains high, and it's a function of those leverage structures, the short-term option trading that's been going on that doesn't gel well with the fact that the likes of the U.S. economy is weakening at an unexpected rate, forcing valuations to come down. However, when you add on today's data, or when you see top industrial countries like China and Germany recording weaker global demand as the exports slow down, one has to get to worry. But focusing on today, bond yields and stocks are up. We see the US indices are all boosting over 1%. Europe also with the CAC and FTSE up 1.9. JSE back home is up 1.1, supported by industrials up 1.5. Resources flat, financials is up 1%. Commodity sector, we're looking at gold up 0.6 at 2,405, platinum 930. Oil is boosting $78 up 2.6, supported by those supply expectations that they would be kept because of the Middle East tensions, as Hamas elected a new leader which shares the same ideology as the previous one. When we jump on into the currency works, we're seeing the rand has strengthened at 18.33 against the dollar, 20.02 against the euro, and 23.32 against the pound.
Okay, and that's it. We'll chat again, tomorrow, but we'll have another update coming up in an hour's time. Paswane Mpatlele, thank you for your time. Right, there's a range of comments that we had on issues around Zimbabwe, on the issues of Airbnb, on the issues of on the issues of Rise Mzansi and Good Party and what they're doing together as chummies in their own strange way, which we'll talk about. But coming up next, well, it's SAFM 88.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Right, so you know the plan, right? We've been talking about it. 88,000 in cash to be given away to 10 people, 8,800 rands each. Now, we've asked you to SMS to SAFM88, and that SMS number, just save it as well, 41391. Now, you can continue because, entries close on the 30th of August. There's some time for you still, right? But this is what I'm going to do now. We've asked you to SMS, and we're going to call you now. We've got this random call out. I have no control over it. We're going to call you. And when I call you, if you answer by saying anything else but SAFM 88, right, you're going to rule yourself out. So don't say how's it, don't say good afternoon, just SAFM 88 is the first things I need to be hearing from you. Otherwise, I've got this whole judging panel who are going to impose on me to say, Ashraf, rule that person out, and I really want you to get your 8,800 rand. So let's start dialing right away. This is all exciting. We should give commentary on this, It sounds like golf, It's the ball. Let's see if they answer the phone. How long would it take? And what will they say?
SAFM 88.
You know the story, man. Well done to you. Super. I was so worried you're going to say, how's it? How may I help you, man? Well, there you are. So you're listening to the show, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, fantastic. What's your name?
My name is Torisho.
Torisho?
Yes.
Okay, and where you speaking to me from? Like where you are now?
I'm in East London.
Okay, well there you are. So we're not often getting enough callers from. We're getting from Gqeberha, but not enough from East London. And so you've not only put yourself on the map, you've put your city on the map, and you've got yourself 8,800 rands extra money. And
Thank you so much.
I don't know about the rules, whether the rules tells you that your wife can still, or your family members can still, SMS. They can do what they want. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing stopping them, as long as they answer the right way when we give them this random call. So you've done it. You're a winner, and you can tell your entire family today. Well, I'll tell you what, you're so happy. I can't see you, but there's nothing stopping you taking a picture of yourself. I'm not forcing you. But if I were you, I hope you got a family member taking a video of you right now. And if they're not, let them do that, showing how happy you are. And then just WhatsApp it to us to 0614 104 107. And then post it on social media. Tag me and SFM Radio. We're going to make it trend worldwide, okay? Can you do that?
All right. Okay.
Well, there you are. Looking forward to that. There you are. That's such a nice one. Right. Perfect. Thank you. Well, we can do more of that. You know that. It's up to you, okay? It's up to you to listen, which you're doing already. It's up to you to SMS, which you can do right away. And it's up to you to ensure that when you answer that phone call, no matter, like practice, even if your family member calls you, when they call you, don't say how's it, don't say Sawubona, don't say any of that. Just even as a practice run, even at midnight, just SFM 88. When they ask you why are you doing that? Just say I'm rehearsing for the time they really call me. Yeah, strange things happen in the world. Let's get to your calls right after this.
SA Women Struggles Journal. #Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development, SAFM celebrates the power, resilience, and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces, and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths, and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, let's get to the calls. We have lots of calls, lots of comments on some of the other issues. KD in the Northern Cape, hello.
Hello, Ashraf and the listeners.
Thanks for calling in. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
Well, my point is that I am concerned that people are beginning to celebrate the ending of Pastor Mboro's church, I don't think that it's a good thing, first and foremost, to celebrate. Because what Pastor Mboro has done as a citizen is something that you should take it as a law matter, a legal matter, a matter which has dealt with the laws of the land. So we should not incorporate what Mboro has done into what Christianity is all about, what a pastor is about, and so on.
Well, I think you're spot on. You're right. Two things don't make a right. I think what he did is ridiculous, right? But you can't, you can't burn down a church. You just can't do that. You just can't burn down anything. But the broader question is what gets people to do that? What is the mindset? And I'm not the psychologist to understand it. What gets in the psyche of people to do what they know is wrong, but they do it anyway on that scale? Thanks for that call, Katie. Much appreciated. Let's get another comment from, we go to Cape Town now. Bonakele on the line. Let's talk about Estina Dairy, right?
No, I'm going to talk about it. The Estina Dairy that has been stuck off the road. Yeah. I'm thinking about 8 Mahashule and those who were involved in that case. What is it going to be now? The way forward for them? Are they going to sue the state or what? Because I can imagine their happiness, because for the case being struck off, it's obviously they're going to sue the state or what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's early days. Look, the announcement just happened earlier on. Is for people who may have heard it was on the news that the Destina Dairy case has been struck off the roll. You're right. I mean, what the actual rulings are, I mean, I need to follow it, and we probably may cover it as well just now. But it has implications. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, just to add on this, Pastor Mboro, what I heard, not just burning down his church, but the community doesn't want him back there. What is going to happen now? So things are going to.
And you're saying it with a laugh. I don't know why you're laughing, but you're saying it with a laugh.
I'm laughing because this pastor is a joke, my friend.
Okay.
It's honestly a joke. How can a pastor carry such a dangerous weapon and do what he did?
Well, I mean, you've made the point. I got that. I mean, I hear you. Absolutely.
He's not a good example of a pastor. Like I said yesterday, he's a fake judge.
Okay.
I almost said a judge.
Got that. All right. Thanks for calling in. We'll talk and laugh some other time as well when the opportunity come up. Here's another one on, I think it's related to Destina Dairies.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, there's something happening here in the Free State regarding these cases that involved the Guptas. I suspect that some people in this justice system, they are deliberately sabotaging the cases that involve the Guptas. Now, this is the second case, the dairy farm case. It's the second case that has been struck off the roll. The first one, the people were discharged. Now, this one, the case has been struck off the roll. I suspect there are people who are deliberately sabotaging these cases so that people who are responsible for the looting must not be charged. Thank you.
Okay, well, I wonder whether that's true. I mean, that's an interesting angle to say what seemed to be like a dead cert secure case is now being been struck off the roll. What would that mean? Are there elements within, in terms of the investigation, in terms of the information that has been received, that has been really deliberate? And I'm not saying that's the truth. I don't know, okay? But I think as per that caller, what's the agenda? I suppose that's why that point, what's your point around this issue? So thanks for that.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarat Park, Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under 15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under 15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under 15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So after 5 o'clock, listen out for that. We're going to play some clips regarding my conversation I've had with Nelson Chamisa. Some really important pronouncements on a whole range of issues. And we're going to play that just after the news, right? However, issues of apps and more apps and different apps that all are meant to make our lives easier, they just flourish, so I think, right? So there's another app, a brand new app on the market called Be Real. So B-E, Real, R-E-A-L, Be Real. This app apparently is the fastest growing app on the charts amongst teens, so teenagers, and I'm just wondering how many teenagers listening to the show now. In fact, if you aren't listening, you can let me know. I'd love to know. Dean Macabre is with me, the founder of My Social Life. Dean, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ashraf. I love your show. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Right, and tell me more about this app, Be Real.
Yeah. Listen, so, I mean, it's actually not that new. It originally launched in 2020, and it really peaked in 2022 when it had about 73 million active users. And actually, it's gone down to 23 million active users in 2024. So it's not specifically new, it's just that it's been incredibly popular. It was originally popular during COVID because what happened was people were looking for as many different innovative ways to keep connection going.
Okay. So in a world of mass number of apps, what's so relevant about this app?
Well, I mean, by the token of its name, Be Real, it's actually about the fact that the photos are largely unfiltered. And what it also does is it uses both the front and back camera. So right now, if you're sitting in your studio, you'll be able to take a photograph of your sound engineer on the one side, and then you with the microphone right at your mouth talking. And it kind of gives that context of what's happening on both sides of the lens. But mainly it's because it's unfiltered. You kind of get a 2-minute window. What happens is you get a notification and it says, it's time to be real. See what your friends are up to, and you've only got 2 minutes to be able to post it. So it's kind of a bit of a mad rush. It's quite fun, and you look at both sides of the lens, and it's unfiltered. That is kind of Be Real in a. You're not glued to it all the time. It's just a moment, and it's kind of fun.
But isn't that the contradiction? Not being glued to it all the time is exactly what app developers don't want you to do.
No, exactly. And I think that was kind of the big pitch at the time is, hey, look, here's something where we're not greedily trying to, keep you stuck to it. But remember, that doesn't mean that they don't want to be extremely successful. By the fact of almost counter-proposing its value, saying, hey, we're a little bit different and we're not doing this, this, and this, they still managed to pick up 73 million users by middle of August 2022. So they've done pretty well.
Okay, but you're saying there's been a decline since then. So what do you explain the decline to?
Look, I think things were when we were in lockdown, people were looking at new apps and we were stuck inside, and I think there was a certain sense of virality to when it launched. I think since then, you would have hoped that perhaps that authenticity would have spiked, but we forget that brands like TikTok and Meta are incredibly sticky and incredibly innovative, and they continue to bring out new product features all of the time. And I think the reality is that 2 minutes a day just isn't enough for most people. It's a nice gimmick, it's a novelty, but actually people like to scroll through hundreds and hundreds of images. And, I teach in schools, and what I see is that kids are absolutely stuck to devices. So this is really just one of a portfolio of apps that they use, and it's fun for the reasons that they proposed it, but it's just not enough.
Okay, well, that's where we leave it. Thank you for your time, because our 2 minutes may well be up. We can't cross that line. Dean Macabre, thank you for your time, the founder of My Social Life, and you can follow him as he comments on issues around My Social Life. But in this case, it's about an app called Be Real. Do you use Be Real? Here's a question to you. How many social media apps do you use every day? How many? I mean, for me, I'm just thinking the top of my head, it has to be the X platform or Twitter's number one for me. I use it most often. I definitely use LinkedIn. I use TikTok as well. I've joined it in the last 6 months. I see the value of it. It's understanding another market. I certainly go onto Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. If I left anything out, I think I've covered it all. So how many do you use every day, every single day, or within a week, for example? Tell me about it. You can, I was going to say you can tweet me out, right? But you can certainly WhatsApp us 0614 104 107. Otherwise, call in 086 000 2032. And talking about comments, here's another one about that dual party we spoke about.
Good day, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. Yeah, man, I mean, dual cities, dual party, it's right. That's what Comrade Jacob Zuma wanted to be in ANC and in Konoswesizi. It's possible. So I'm wondering, if it's possible, then why didn't they allow it for Jacob Zuma? Just food for thought.
Well, they didn't allow it because they're not the good party. They were not being that good to Jacob Zuma. I mean, that's the point, right? You get Rise, you get the good party, and you get the ANC, and each party has its own rules. And clearly, what the good party thinks is okay for the ANC, it's an absolute what's the word? It's offside, like a no ball. Can't allow it. Well, they clearly have not allowed it, and we know that, right? Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. A Stina case struck off the roll and 3 UK men jailed over violent riots. Good day to you. The 280 million rand Astina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll at the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. The judgment follows the defence application where they argued that the state is not ready and hasn't made full disclosure of its investigation to the accused. The presiding judge says the delays are indeed unreasonable and cannot proceed under these circumstances. The case emanates from the alleged looting of the Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development between 2012 and 2014. The accused include former and current officials of the department, former MEC Mozaben Zezwane, as well as Gupta Associates and linked companies. Residents of Mafube village in Middelburg have pleaded with the Mpumalanga government to improve the issue of scholar transport in the area. This follows the recent crash involving a scholar transport bus and a train, which claimed the lives of 6 learners. During a memorial service for the learners today, parents said the deployment of extra buses can reduce the fatigue of the bus drivers. While some Katlehong residents east of Johannesburg welcomed the ruling that Pastor Paseka Mboro Motswaneng will remain behind bars until his next court appearance, others have expressed disappointment. Mboro and 2 others have been remanded in custody until August 16th at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. This Katlehong resident who attended the court proceedings says it's disheartening to see a pastor behind bars.
I'm very disappointed, the whole pastor. But anyway, he was prophesying that one day the community would ban the churches, which means the prophecy, which means the guy prophesied. But as a pastor, I'm really disappointed. I'm very disappointed. That's why I say I'm very disappointed and I'm shocked. As a man of God, really, I'm very disappointed.
The MK Party has been officially recognised as a registered student organisation by the Sol Plaatje University in Kimberley. The leadership of the Umkhonto we Sizwe student movement says they will make efforts in building structures at campus. Branch chairperson Lungila Pongula.
As the student movement, we take extreme pride in being finally recognized as the student movement of Umkhonto we Sizwe Party. And we will ensure that as the student movement, we not only recruit members, but in actual fact, conscientize young people who converge under this institution to understand their role in a society, to raise their level of consciousness to a point that they take pride of who they are and what they want to do or to be in the future. So our president has called upon all young people in South Africa, particularly Africans, to take this opportunity to enroll at this university.
The Astronomers Conference has for the first time opened its doors to the public to attend. This is the conference is underway in Cape Town. High school learners and future astronomers who attended weighed in.
I'm looking forward to meeting some of the astronomers inside. As I was younger, I wanted to become an astronaut, but I just didn't know how to go about it. So I feel like now I'll have a more broad and insight on how it works.
I'm curious to see what type of, the types of research they've done on certain planets, the unknown of the universe, I guess, from what they've discovered so far away, like how the old system of light traveling from certain distances and what we've discovered from the photos so far.
3 men in Britain have become the first to be convicted of violent disorder since a wave of rioting broke out last week. The men who all pleaded guilty were jailed for between 20 months and 3 years for taking part in unrest in Liverpool. Outside the court, Jonathan Egan, a spokesperson for the Crown Prosecution Service, condemned the men's actions.
Drummond, Riley and Gearon's actions would have caused panic, revulsion and chaos in their local communities. The 3 men sentenced today are the tip of the iceberg and just the start of what will be a very painful process for many who foolishly chose to involve themselves in violent unrest. Many of those involved will be sent to prison for a long time.
The top story, the 280 million rand Astina dairy farm matter has been struck off the roll at the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
In sports, Sri Lanka defeats India in an ODI series for the first time since 1997, and Trutta joins Richards Bay on a 1-year deal.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. Christina de Wet Avenue southbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at Eupheus Road. In Midrand, the N1 southbound has a crash at Buccleuch Interchange, and the N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N3 southbound in Van Riemen's Pass has a crash near Van Rienen Town, so you're asked to expect delays there. The N3 westbound in Ashburton has a stationary track at Linfield Park, and the N2 northbound is queuing towards Umgeni Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard is queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the M3 Philip Gosana Drive outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's the first elimination challenge, and to stay in the competition, the bottom 6 contestants must channel their inner Italian by baking a delicious handmade pizza using leftovers from the fridge. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster Junior. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2. Witness the global battle of great athletes from South Africa and from all over the world in the Olympic Games Paris 2024. From the heart-pounding races on the track to the graceful routines on the gymnastics floor, each event promises to deliver moments of sheer brilliance and sporting excellence. Live the intense rivalries, inspiring comebacks and record-breaking performances right here across all SABC TV channels, SABC radio stations, on the move with SABC Plus or online on sabcsport.com. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes. The Olympic Games Paris 2024. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Now, of course, you can comment about just about anything that for you, moves the national pulse every single day. So if you're talking about the Astina dairies, I mean, that's fine too. We've been speaking about apps. That's fine too. If you want to talk about Airbnbs, as we've discussed earlier, that's okay. But also, what about, and of course, the running mate with regard to the Democratic candidate for the U.S. election, and that's Kamala Harris, right? But what about Zimbabwe as a country? And we chatted earlier on to Nelson Chamisa. Remember, he was the former president, or is the former president of the Citizen Coalition for Change, CCC. So we had like a 15-minute conversation with him earlier on. You can listen to that podcast as well, so just check it out. But I thought what I'll do is this. Lots of people want to comment about it. We'll play your voice notes as soon as we can thereafter. But let's run through some of the key points that he spoke about. So initially, my question to him was, what's his assessment of where Zimbabwe is right now?
Well, Zimbabwe is in a very difficult political situation, a governance crisis, a leadership crisis, a paralysis in terms of direction, in terms of progress, occasioned by a disputed election. You are aware that by all standards, SADC standards, AU standards, international observer mission standards, Commonwealth, COMESA, the international world in general, they all passed a verdict of a flawed and irregular election. Even Zimbabweans themselves, including those in ZANU-PF, they know that what they did in August on the 23rd was not an election but a sham. And that sham must be corrected. That sham must be regularized. And this is what we have been grappling with. We have a political situation where there is a stalemate in the country and there's a contested government, there's a contested president, and that is where we are.
So in terms of a contested government or contested leadership, then what about everybody else? What about the big challenges of leadership?
Well, of course, it remains because we have a big challenge within the region and on the continent. It then becomes a union of leaders instead of union of citizens. And that is what we have been saying over and over again, that what we need is a community of the citizens of the Southern African Development Community. It must be a development community, but also a social community and a political community of the citizens themselves in terms of basic standards of human rights, good governance, proper elections, and to have a certain standards in terms of how the rule of law has to be respected. And that is what we have always said. We are where we are because SADC did not pass a clean verdict on the elections in Zimbabwe.
Now remember, this is a conversation I had early on with Nelson Chamisa, but we picked up some key points that he spoke about. One of them, of course, considering his pronouncements on the state of the country, would be going back to that previous election and the mandate that the current government has or does not have.
What we have is a government that does not have the mandate of the citizens. And this is why this government has failed to produce and perform for the citizens of Zimbabwe. That's why there's an economic paralysis. That's why you have over 5 million Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora. And that's why Zimbabwe continues to be a headache for other countries, South Africa included, Zambia, Botswana. We have Zimbabweans all over, not because they want to be there and be a nuisance, but they are there because of circumstances. The political situation in the country is such that there are push factors more than there are pull factors for people to remain in the country. So what has to happen is a political settlement in making all political players, ourselves included, because the election was, even a disputed election, was almost like 50-50. And Mr. Mnangagwa had abused the electorate, he had manipulated ZEC with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission by making sure that certain ballot papers were not distributed.
I certainly spoke about some of the challenges that South Africa has faced and how we've attempted to overcome those challenges as per the last election. But in this case, Nelson Chamisa certainly believes that there must be some unifying force that brings Zimbabweans together.
We have to have a common position as Zimbabweans to say, how do we cure this illegitimacy? How do we cure this disputed election? And the way to cure it is for people to come together and say, these are the steps to making sure that there are reforms, electoral reforms, political reforms, and of course a transitional arrangement and mechanism to have proper systems, undisputed political processes, undisputed elections, undisputed legitimacy. So that once we do that, Zimbabwe is readmitted again into the family of nations. The dilemma right now is that SADC is going to confer chairmanship on Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe with such a deficit and deficiency of attributes and credentials of good governance. That's a challenge.
The other challenge was regarding Nelson Chamisa himself. Remember, he, as the leader of the CCC party, effectively resigned immediately after that last contested and results contested election. And I put that to him in terms of why he resigned.
I did not resign on my own. I had to leave because Mr. Mnangagwa was playing his tomfoolery and antics of a dictatorship by manipulating parliament and even trying to recall and withdraw legitimate members of parliament on account of his games that he was playing. So I said, look, I have nothing to do with these funny games. My focus is on nation building. My focus is on resolving the disputed election. And I do so with the mandate of the citizens of Zimbabwe, over 2 million people of Zimbabwe who voted for me, who voted for us, who voted for the alternative. And that is the voice I carry.
So if he didn't resign on his own volition, then what happens next? What is his role now?
My role is to bring that other piece of Zimbabwe that Mr. Mnangagwa doesn't have. The country is divided by half. In fact, we have the majority. But when we go according to the election that was rigged, we have almost half-half. And that tells you that we have a legitimate voice to making sure that we correct that disputed election. We correct the governance deficits that we have. We correct the issues that have bedeviled this country. You know that Zimbabwe has not been in its best of place since the 2000s. And we still have those problems. Those problems have been before SADC, before the AU, before the world. And we want these issues to be resolved. Human rights deficits. As we speak, over 80 people are political prisoners on account of persecution and abductions and arrests. As we speak right now, we have human rights defenders, we have civil society, who are incarcerated, not for any reason, but just trumped up charges. That tells you that we are a sick country. Our politics is broken. Our economy is sinking. And of course, our social fabric is torn apart. Families are all over the world, dotted across the globe of the world. Why? Because of the challenges that we have politically. It's a leadership deficit problem.
It's a powerful statement from Nelson Chamisa. We are a sick country. We are a sick country. Naturally, we spoke about opposition to the leadership of this sick country and what do the opposition voices say or can say? And he said this.
Well, there's no tolerance, actually. There is a problem and there's a fight. Most people have trumped up charges on account of having a divergent view or a different opinion. And that is part of the problem, because our biggest challenge is that we have people in government who did not get into government on account of the mandate of the people. Look at South Africa. They had their own issues out of elections, but they produced the government of national unity. I'm not suggesting that that should be the way to go, but there has to be conversation. There has to be a debate. It takes two to tango. You can't build a nation by having one political party that is dominating on the basis of coercion, violence, and repression.
Well, it's interesting you spoke about, South Africa's example, and naturally I touched on, what would Zimbabwe do in coming together? I mean, should we talk government of national unity or other, coalition forces coming together?
Yes. Building a nation is not a solo affair. Building a nation is not a mono task. It takes all the different pluralistic parties and individuals to play a role. A government of national unity is actually an acknowledgement of the will of the people. Respect the voice of the people. When the voice of the people is respected, the economy responds. When the voice of the people is respected, even the nation moves in a particular direction. Because at the end of the day, we are one people, not just as Zimbabweans, but as Africans.
Well, please download and share that podcast. There's more to come. There's maybe 3 more pieces that I want to pick up from that conversation. Picking up again on that point about building a nation. He used that sense of togetherness once again.
And we must be able to come together, understand that what brings us together is far more outweighs what may actually separate us.
We
are one people.
Okay, that's very clear. Then we talked about South Africa. Now, you may be aware that, Julius Malema made the point that the youth of Zimbabwe must rise. I mean, he said this at the speech, I think it was about 2 days ago, in fact. And I put that to him in terms of his response, Nelson Chamisa's response to Julius Malema's call for the youth of Zimbabwe to rise.
Well, it's a statement of solidarity. Julius realizes that there is a problem in Zimbabwe, and we want to thank him. We want to thank the EFF and all progressive forces and voices that realize that indeed Zimbabwe is the problem child of Africa. Zimbabwe is the sick country of the region, and we must be able to resolve issues in Zimbabwe if we are to resolve the challenges around people who are in South Africa, citizens from Zimbabwe who are flocking into South Africa to compete for the services in South Africa, to compete for the economic opportunities. That is not proper. But we have to make sure that Zimbabweans themselves are conscientized, mobilized, organized, and they are able to say none but ourselves. But of course, we need the support and solidarity of everyone in the region.
And then my question naturally turned to South Africa's role in what's going on in Zimbabwe.
Well, if South Africa had not turned a blind eye on the situation in Zimbabwe since 2000, we would be somewhere. Zimbabwe would be an entirely different place. But there has been a burying of the head in the sand, an ostrich mentality, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. False brotherhood on the basis of tyranny, on the basis of autocracy and dictatorship. That is what has, brought our countries to a standstill.
And my last question to Nelson Chamisa is if he could speak to Emmerson Mnangagwa directly, what would he be telling him today?
Legacy is more important than what you are enjoying today. Nothing lasts forever. Power is temporary. Use it. Don't abuse it. Always remember that it is all about others, not yourself. And remember that when you do good for your country, you are doing it for yourself. And this is what must be understood by all leaders, that we all come and go. We all serve and leave. And when we do leave, we need to leave a legacy of harmony, unity, peace, love and tolerance, inclusion, so that we do not have the ghosts of persecution then following us, as we have seen in other countries where leaders are cursed, even their graves.
Right, that's the voice of Nelson Chamisa. So what's your point regarding Zimbabwe?
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
The Olympic medalist, Tatiana Smith, representing South Africa.
Tears of joy will certainly flow for Tatiana Smith.
Smith, silver.
I think this one is much different than any of my races. I'm so fortunate to get a medal.
For the love of the game. Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. Contestants are taken on a flavor journey and must work in teams to bake a colorful, multi-layered cake inspired by the smooth vibes of a tropical island. Featuring special guest judges Mimi and Holly from Baking with the Rays. That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk. The National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, if I ask the question, what moves the National Pulse, what's very clear is who drives it. It's you. We have the organizations that say different things, but you certainly have an important role in driving it. Here's your thoughts.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Garda from Durban. Ashraf, I wonder if you can ask Chimisa for me, or Mr. Chimisa for me, what does he think of mass deportation of Zimbabweans, since he says they are a cancer to SADC region? Would he support if South Africa deported them in their numbers? Because right now, most South Africans are complaining that there are too many Zimbabweans in South Africa and they are taking jobs.
Okay, got that. Clearly couldn't ask him that question. There was just not enough time in the limited time we had available. Maybe another question for another time. I mean, I hear that. Thanks for that. Here's another one.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Good afternoon to your team. Great show always. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver. Regarding what Chamisa is saying, Chamisa is too humble. That's the problem. So he wants to go anywhere. Zimbabwe needs someone who is strong, who can fight. If you say, let's go, then we go. Not we talk about God too much. He won't win. That battle he won't win. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver.
Well, JJ, the truck driver, you got strong views on that. Here's another one around problems.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol here from Durban. You know, if somebody says to you, if you have a problem, just phone me or call me, that shows that this particular person is not too sure of himself. He's not too sure if he's fixed the problem that you have had properly. Yeah, that also bugs me. I've had a few of those guys, and I have had to phone them again. And Errol from Durban.
Yeah, Errol, referring to my initial point in the That's My Point feature about when you do some service and people are done, they say, well, there it is. If you have a problem, call me. And I'm saying, don't tell me there's going to be no problem any longer, right? Here's another one on Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Ashraf, Oliver, and SAFM for keeping us informed of the developments in Zimbabwe. Only when enough South Africans understand what is truly going on there and lean on their government to pressurize Zimbabwe for constructive reforms that will return many Zimbabweans back home, will we see developments that will be good for South Africa and the rest of the region. Thanks, Farai.
Thanks for that, Farai. Interesting one. I mean, you're right. You know, if the problems are resolved in that country, it in many ways resolves South Africa's problems in this country, because a neighbor who has a problem is literally a neighbor in the street that's got a problem. You have to be able to find a way to resolve their problems too. Lionel in Woodbank. Hi, Lionel. Lionel, do I have you there?
Hello, Ashraf, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Lionel. What's your point?
Yes, I'd like to comment on this issue of Zimbabwe.
Just go ahead, do it.
Yes, Ashraf, you know, with me, when I look at countries like Zimbabwe, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mozambique, etc., the liberation movements of these countries had always had communism as their ideology. And these countries implemented communist policies. So for me, is it any wonder that they are suffering the way they are? Because what I am seeing here is nothing but neo-colonialism.
Okay.
What I'm implying is that the colonial masters of these countries are still in power.
Well, we don't know enough. We don't know enough, Lionel. I'm going to hold you there. We don't know enough about it to say it can only be some other country's problem. I hear you. But I'm also going to stop only because we need to move on to another interview like ASAP. So I really appreciate your call. Maybe have a longer chat some other time. So let's talk about another very important issue in South Africa, which is the issue of the Libyans in this country, and it's been raised by many people around, you know, that security camp in the White River area, right? So the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority's director, that's Manabela Chauke, delivered the preliminary report of investigations into an illegal military camp disguised as a security training facility, right? So we know that now. So what we have on the line now is Manabela Chauke, from the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, the director there. Thank you for your time and joining us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to listeners.
Thank you. So what can you tell us? I mean, this issue surfaced a week ago. What has happened since then that you'd like to relate to us?
We gave a report today on the update as to where we are, essentially saying that we've made certain findings that the military camp is illegal, and therefore, we've had to shut it down. And some of the steps that we've taken also in regard to the ownership of the business that is involved. Essentially, we've served them with a notice of suspension. So what it means that they will have 7 days in which to tell us why we should not be suspending their business.
Okay. And you're saying the camp is illegal. Have you determined what was the camp being set up in the first place for? Because you did say military camp. So you're very clear it is a military camp. What would then be the motive of that military camp in South Africa?
Well, we are aware by now that they've been conducting training, under the disguise of security training, and in that camp. And I think the most important thing for us to narrow the whole conversation down is that it doesn't really matter whether the training was military or not military. Even if it was ordinary security training, the main thing is that they did not obtain authorization to conduct the training. Secondly, that very same camp where they were conducting the training was not accredited. The programs that they were using to train were not accredited. So the whole operations and activities were unlawful.
Okay. What can you tell us about the organizers and the owners of the camp in South Africa? Who are they? Do they do this normally? And what more can you tell us?
Well, we've also confirmed that we are dealing here with one of the security service providers, Military Day Security Services. We should name it MDSS. They have been in the business since 2019 with us. They are registered with us, accredited to provide security training from grade E to C. And this is very important for me to emphasize, because the one location which we accredited, there are absolutely no problems with that location. However, the second location, which is now where the Libyans were found, that is where the problem is. But unfortunately, because the registered security provider on the one area where there is no problem is the same one that is using the same name to train on the Libyan side of the camp.
Let's just end with this last thing. In terms of the conversation so far, have the Libyan nationals explained what they are doing in South Africa in the first place? Has anybody said anything that represents them?
Well, I'm unable to comment on that one. You may know by now that the Libyans were arrested. Unfortunately, at the time we were conducting the investigations, we weren't able to communicate fully with them because of language barriers.
But clearly there's translators.
Yeah, at the time we were conducting the investigations, unfortunately, we couldn't talk to them. We were concerned and focused on the operations of the security service provider that we've accredited.
I understand. Okay, it's a story we need to follow, maybe from a different angle sometime soon. Thank you for your time. That's Manabela Chauke from the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, the director there. I much appreciate your time. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says despite the party's disagreement with alliance partners COSATU and the SACP on the ANC-led government of national unity, they are slowly beginning to find each other. The Free State High Court said it would be unconstitutional to go ahead with the Estina dairy farm trial when the defence didn't have all the documents to consult and prepare for the case. And Iranian authorities say a probe is underway into the alleged use of violence by police against a 14-year-old girl for not wearing her hijab properly. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound has ramp closure with no access to the N1 north at Dipkloof interchange due to a truck crash and spillage incident. Christina de Wit Avenue southbound in Pretoria has a crash at Ufius Road in Midrand. The N1 southbound has a crash at Buccleuch interchange. The N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and Summit Road westbound has delays at Blue Hills. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after the Zimbabwe Drive exit. The N3 southbound in Van Reenen's Pass has a crash near Van Reenen town, so you're asked to expect delays there. The N3 westbound in Ashburton, an earlier stationary truck at Linfield Park has been cleared, but traffic is still slow moving. The N3 westbound in Hillcrest has a stationary truck at Key Ridge, and Bayard Road has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, Turfel Road eastbound is slow moving towards Jan Smuts Drive. Marine Drive northbound in Milnerton is slow moving towards Racecourse Road. Coburg Road northbound in Tableview is queuing towards Blauberg Road, and Viking Way eastbound in Epping queuing towards the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, not all cricket is about the Proteas, is it?
Yes, this time around we're talking all things Sri Lanka, who claimed a historic series win over India as they beat them by 110 runs in the third and final ODI. After choosing to bat first, Sri Lanka posted a good score of 248 for 7, with Avishka Fernando top scoring at 96, and in reply, India were all out for 138 in 26 overs. In terms of the Proteas, that match between the test match between the Proteas and West Indies is currently on pause because of rain delays. South Africa currently sitting on 45 for 1 after 15 overs. Remember, Proteas won the toss and they elected to bat first in that first of 2 tests in Trinidad and Tobago. Then in football, Richards Bay have announced Brendan Trutter as their new head coach to replace Vusimusi Vilakazi on a 1-year deal. Vilakazi parted ways with the club on Monday despite signing a 1-year deal after winning the PSL promotion playoffs in June. And a change of coaches at the Richards Bay has been influenced by the arrival of new sponsors who are Pagwe Gas. Then Sekhukhune United captain Linda Mtambo says that he expects the newly signed Thabang Monare to play a leading role at the club from the dressing room to the field of play. This coming weekend, Sekhukhune will open their 2024-25 season campaign with an MTN 8 game against Cape Town City in Polokwane. Now, Monare is a direct replacement of Kamkhelo Mogocho, who has crossed the floor to the citizens, and Tambo knows that Monare they have played together at Jomo Cosmos and Pirates, and he expects him to be very influential at Babina Noko.
Myself and Thabang have a strong, relationship off the field. We've played together at Jomo Cosmos and at Pirates, and now we are here. I think Thabang is a big boy. He's been in the league for so many years. He knows what he needs to bring on the table. The other time, my colleagues were asking me, what can we expect? And I said, you can expect nothing but 100% from a player like of Thabang's quality. He knows what he needs to deliver. He knows his mandate as a player. He knows what he needs to do on the field. So with that, I don't have a lot of problems with obviously integrating him into the team. All he just needs to do is get to know his teammates. But what he needs to do on the field, he has millions in. So that's not much of a problem when it comes to him.
Then just moving on to the Olympics in terms of the results on how Team South Africa have performed thus far today. Edmund du Plessis is through to the men's 800 metres semi-final after clocking 1 minute 45.58 seconds in his heat event. Brian Rotz is through to the men's high jump final, and he finished jumping 2.24 metres in the qualifications. And Hamish Lovemore advanced to the men's kayaking single 1,000 metre semi-finals. Don't forget tonight though, Sean Maswangai and Wade van Niekerk in the 200 metre semi-finals at 2 minutes past 8 and 18 minutes past 8 respectively, with Miranda Coetzee in the 400 metre semi-final, and that one is at 1 minute past 9
And
o'clock.
I will not be watching it today.
You're not going to be watching it?
Because I'm playing paddle. That's all.
Oh, I see.
That's the reason why. It's the first time I'll not be watching at night. Anyway, listen, quick one for you. Besides the obvious sports, any other sport that you don't normally watch that's really attracted your attention or your appeal? Yeah.
I've actually enjoyed skateboarding, funny enough. I was listening to just how they adjudicate, or they actually score these athletes, and basically they don't have set rules on you need to do this trick or whatever, but every level becomes even more difficult.
How do they judge it then? I mean,
each one just comes with their own tricks, and based on whatever that you get, then you get judged, I think, out of 10 if I'm not wrong.
Who wants to be a judge? I saw there's 14-year-old girl, I think, is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, but if anybody knows, you can tell me. Okay, that's it. So more skateboarding for you, and we'll get more skateboarding reports and analysis from Tumi sometime, if you can. I don't know. Right?
Well, with that said, it's a wrap from my side. All
right,
winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Chamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
Babina Noko returns to the battlefield with a great strategy to display a melody of victory. But the citizens are shaking their heads. Eric Tinkler's boys are confident that they will land successfully in the last four. This is the MTN 8 quarterfinal. Wafa Wafa. Catch Sekhukhune United FC and Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 10 August at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
By the way, quick one, if you want to join our WhatsApp channel for the National Pulse, just WhatsApp us, 0614 104 107, and we'll have a conversation about keeping Bulawayo clean initiative. Really great one coming up around 10 to 6, so don't miss that. But okay, let's talk numbers as always. We do with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good chatting to you as always. Thanks for your time with the SAFM market update. Now, first things first, you want to talk about significant move regarding SASFIN, right? And a massive deal approval. Tell me about that.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. Yes, we touched on this yesterday in our show. SASFIN they put out a SENS announcement yesterday saying that they are looking to dispose of one of their business units to African Bank in a deal that would be worth around 3.25 billion rand. It would certainly put SASFIN in a better position considering the 210 million rand fine they also received at the start of August from the Prudential Authority and their ongoing tax affairs with the receiver of revenue. So this deal would certainly put them in a much better footing. And this morning we got confirmation that the finance minister has approved the deal. He's quite happy to see it go through. It's very important that these kinds of deals go through the relevant regulatory approvals and statutory approvals. And it's quite interesting to see, particularly for the size of deal, that there were no objections to it. There was very little resistance from it. So definitely boding well for the SASFIN team. But the conversation we had around the SASFIN team is up on our website, and anyone can go and listen to it there. The conversations we do have coming up today, though, still relate to companies like SASFIN and companies that are listed on the JSE, because we're speaking to the JSE themselves. They, in addition to being an exchange, are also a company, and they reported their 6 months results for the first half of the year ending June 2024. I've got a conversation with the CEO of the JSE around that performance. Then we've got a conversation with Duncan Artis, Chief Investment Officer at Allan Gray, around South Africa Inc. I've spoken to a couple of business leaders and industry leaders around whether or not there's optimism with regards to South African stocks and the South African picture. And Duncan Artis seems to think that there is much optimism, and we have seen this in recent times. We've seen the likes of JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley increasing their ratings or adjusting their ratings for South African stocks and South African equities. So we're going to speak about that and try and understand where the best opportunities lie for the average investor as well as for your overall portfolios. And then we've got a special segment as part of our consumer awareness segment around the ownership of family homes. Typically when there's a family home involved, mother stays in the home or grandmother stays in the home, and when the family elder passes away, there's always a sibling rivalry or sibling fight for who the owner is of the home, who's allowed to sell the home, what happens in that case, and how we navigate that. So we're going to look into that. There are some legal grounds around that. We're going to look at the legalities of selling the home or potentially not selling the home, and who has the right to do that. And then because it's Wednesday, we've also got an Executive Lounge segment today on the show, and we're going to be speaking speaking to the Chief Investment Officer at Philip Morris Southern Africa. That's Mary Mahuma. We're going to get to know what she does as Chief Investment Officer at a tobacco company and what she does in her downtime. But before we get to that, let's get a quick summary of how the markets have done today. It seems as though we are back on better footing. Asian markets all in the green, European markets all in the green, US markets all in the green, and South African markets in the green. Let's do a quick summary of what's been moving. Sydney was up about 0.5%, Hong Kong 1.1% in the green, mainland China 0.1% in the green. Tokyo Nikkei was up almost 3%, 2.95% there in the green. As I said, European markets also having a good day. CAC 40 in France, 2% up. DAX in Germany, 1.6%. FTSE in London, 1.7% in the green. US markets are still trading, and they are trading well. NASDAQ up 1.5% at the moment. The S&P up 1.3%. South African markets closed in the green as well. Industrials finally coming to the party. They were up 1.8%, leading the charge in today's movements. Financial stocks up just under 1%. Resource stocks up 0.2%, which meant that the all share finished up 1.18%, with the JSE moving in a similar fashion. If we look at some currency movements, the rand still kind of not doing much against the dollar. 18 rand 38 cents there, almost flat for the day. Against the pound, 23 rand 38 cents, losing about 0.1%, and 20 rand and 9 cents against the euro, also about 0.1% down there. 1 Australian dollar will cost you 12 rand and 4 cents. And if we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, kind of haven't moved from yesterday's pricing. Ethereum's moved a little to the downside, but Bitcoin still sitting around $56,000 a coin there. A quick look at some commodities price movements. Gold price $2,395 an ounce. Brent crude $78.59 a barrel. And price of platinum and palladium also both in the green. Platinum $931.30 an ounce, and palladium around the $885 mark. So we're going to look into these and other movements a little later on. But for now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
Okay, well, yesterday we sort of talked about an idiot's guide to something in terms of a soundbite. So I'll do it again with you. Give me a soundbite answer to the idiot's guide to the impact of trade wars.
Perfect example, actually, considering there is a bit of a trade war that seems to be unfolding in South Africa or in the SADC region. And effectively what's happening is we've seen countries like Botswana and Namibia put a ban on vegetable exports going into those countries coming from South Africa, and that's had a negative impact on our farmers. They've now recently added oranges to that list, and effectively what that means is we find the local farmers that export into those regions now have to find new markets or are unable to export their products, therefore unable to generate their revenues and contribute towards their share of the taxes, and that has a ripple effect on our own economy, on our overall exporting number or our export volumes, and it seems as though these tensions are ongoing. We don't really have an idea of when they're going to end, but that's some of the impacts that we're seeing there from those countries. They're saying they're trying to protect their economies, but it's a very interesting way that it unfolds because it affects political tensions as well between the countries.
Okay, got that. Well, there you are. Now we know, right? Thanks for that, Jimmy. Enjoy your show coming up at 6 o'clock.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For superfast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak, and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Well, we've got an SMS. Let me see. What moves my pulse today is this striking of the role of the Estina dairy. The Gupta lies are proven wrong daily. GNU, Pala Pala, CR, bank statements. Got that. Let's get to some of the calls now. Hassan in Joburg, hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Ashraf, yesterday, I think the Republican, the Congresswoman, Cory Bush from the Democratic Party lost her election in a primary to another black person, Wesley Bell. But it looks like Leslie Bell was sponsored by AIPAC, and the election results were very, very close. Now, the reason I'm interested is that Cory Bush was part of the squad of left-wing activists, about 4 or 5 of them, that were trying to keep American policy at least honest to its own citizens and also in relation to Israel. But the AIPAC put in the money, and I'm talking about your last guest, and I really think you need to get the Stremlau and all those people comment to talk to us about the power of AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, who put in disproportionate money inside primaries. So they're basically sponsoring both parties in many ways, and as one journalist said, America's the best democracy that money can buy.
Okay.
And it seems that there seems to be no real control of how this.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Thanks for raising that. Not much time to comment. There just isn't enough time. But certainly we've made a note of it. I think we do know, even in the South African election, the ability of money to effectively to buy influence is there. Why would it change in the USA, even with regarding global, foreign, international relation politics? Thanks for that call, Hassan. Stephen in Centurion, hi.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed.
Look,
Right, go
Ashraf,
ahead. Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm so disappointed about this Rais Mzansi and the Good Party.
Yeah, why?
Look, where are we as the voters? Did they go back to the voters and tell them that they are now going to that party? No, it is about them. It's just a waste of votes, really. It's a waste of votes. We are in this situation now, Ashraf, because of this kind of wastage of votes. Really.
So
I'm
that's
so disappointed.
Okay, got that waste of votes. Well, lots of people are talking about just that. I've said so before. I mean, I know I'm being idealistic. Ideally, you want 2 votes. One for the party that you actually want to vote for, and the second vote when your party that you vote for does not get a majority, who they should partner with. And in this case, I think you're right. I don't think anywhere would a party have said, let's go back to our constituents and ask them whether our man can be part of the good party just for now. Thanks for that call, Stephen. Moses in Bramley, hi.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, very good indeed. You're in Bramley. We're going to be broadcasting from the Wanderers tomorrow, just so you know, so very close to where you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, Ashraf, with a Zimbabwean situation, these guys, I heard Uncle JJ coming and said, we don't need leaders like Chamisa, we need strong leaders.
Mm-hmm.
He himself, JJ, is a coward. All the Zimbabwean people are cowards. They are afraid of Mnangagwa. Even if he's asleep, they can just, catch him asleep. They are afraid of that gentleman. But on the radio, they will come and say, we need people to support us. We fought our battles here when apartheid was against us. We definitely not invite anyone to come and fight our battles. You cannot invite Moses Muturi from a village in Buraudi to come and fight your battles. Fight your own battles.
I don't know. I mean, South Africa also needed help from foreign countries that put pressure on apartheid South Africa, both with sanctions, clearly, and then international isolation was a huge role in changing how apartheid South Africa viewed its own citizens, although they didn't call us citizens at that time. Thanks for that call, Moses. We're going to move on. We're going to chat to a Zimbabwean, by the way, now about something else. Keep Bulawayo clean.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
So my guest now is Tonderai Shoko. Tonderai, hi.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Now, we're talking to you because I understand you've been part of a unique voluntary cleaning up initiative in the streets of Zimbabwe. We thought, well, you'd certainly championing a great cause. Let's talk about what you do.
Okay, yes. We've been running an initiative called Keep Bulawayo Clean. Basically, this initiative is to encourage people not to litter, to plant trees, and to always be proud of staying in a clean environment.
Okay, so tell me more about how you went about doing this, because obviously you've roped in other people, and how it's changed the streets of Bulawayo.
Okay, let me go back to how this initiative started. This goes back to when we used to still go to primary school with my two young brothers, Willard and Dr. Tinashe. Going to school, we used to cycle. The playways were clean. Even getting into town on weekends, it was clean. But later on, we noticed that people had lost the culture that they had before. People would literally throw a banana peel in front of you, and it's normal. This is in town. Then we put it upon ourselves to remind everyone that Bulawayo used to be one of the cleanest cities in the world. So by doing that, we had to find something that we should do that would not make us get into a confrontation with someone, because if you directly go to someone and say stop littering, then they feel offended. So we looked at the resources we had, and we saw that it's best to use social media to share a picture every day of us doing a cleanup, planting a tree, or educating school kids about not littering. That's what we've been doing.
All right, and you've been doing it for almost 5 years, right?
Yes, today we are on day 2064. So basically we've been doing it for every day, but we started, this was about 2017.
Okay, it's amazing. What impact has it had? Has it had on the one hand on the streets of Bulawayo, but also in terms of other people watching what you are doing and the others who are now part of your campaign?
All right, I'm actually happy to say that we've actually come to Johannesburg, South Africa. This was on day 809. We actually had a cleanup in Diepsloot. We have traveled to other cities and other countries, met other environmentalists who've also adopted the initiative we're doing. So I'm really happy that it's brought a very positive impact, and it's made people appreciate that it does not take much to make a difference. That is our catchphrase. It does not take much to make a difference.
Now, you are volunteers, so how do you then manage your time between volunteering and then your normal work?
Basically, I dedicate between 30 minutes to an hour a day. And yes, I actually look forward to the next day.
So how many
it's
of you...
Not much time, but you can do so much.
How many of you involved now?
Right, so basically what happens is we've got different people who we work with on different days. So we know that for a Monday, we are scheduled to have a cleanup in such a street with such a group of volunteers. The next week or the next day, we've actually got a daily schedule with different people in different areas. So it's not a set group that we work with. No. It's basically everyone who's available on the day.
What more can be done? I mean, you're getting this right, and obviously now you're aware of your power of mobilization. What more can be done in your town? Maybe we as South Africans can learn from you.
Basically, well, I should actually say that we've actually learned quite a bit more from South Africa. Why should I say that? Is because we need to tap in more into recycling, because by creating recycling plants locally, we are actually going to encourage people to actually bring the plastics together and maybe sell them to the recyclers. So we are looking at a way of making people look at litter as a way of making money.
Okay, God, I'll tell you what. Well, I think you're doing great things. Keep it going, and I think the hashtag is what? Keep Bulawayo Clean. So Tonderai Shoko for keeping Bulawayo clean. Well, we like to talk to winners, and you certainly have done that, and that's fantastic. Keep up the good work. Well done. Right? Now let's just add a couple of important things. So earlier on, Gaten McKenzie, the minister of Sports, Art and Culture, tweeted saying, we had a chat with the Minister of Home Affairs, that's Leon Schreiber, and said he will share his findings today. This is my team will also be meeting the organisers of Miss South Africa. I have faith in Home Affairs to deal with this matter thoroughly, and we will revert back on this issue. And then makes Leon Schreiber saying collaboration to address the important issues is the name of the game for the GNU. Home Affairs dotting every I and crossing every T, because we can only restore the rule of law by following the law updates to the public to follow. So that's one bit of news. It's not yet news. It's a case of it's going to happen sometime today, I would think. Varashni Palesi, the journalist, she's tweeted something that is really puzzling and troublesome. She said, I'm so shaken. The owner of my daughter's gymnastics club in Parkhurst has just suspended her. I've tried to speak to her repeatedly about the stigma of my 4-year-old has faced as the only black child in an all-white group of kids she's adopted, right? The kids have called her a boy, frozen her out. The owner of the club, North Star Gym, their response was to tell her to move to another group. I noted that wouldn't solve the stigma issues. Her response was to suspend my daughter with immediate effect. Surely this isn't okay. And the last one from Inkosinati Lutuli in Soweto saying, Ashraf, I'd like to applaud SFM for being such adventurous and vibrant in its hiring approach. Those relatively new voices, especially in sport and business features, are also powerful. They're well-versed in their respective features. Well, glad that you're listening. This is, of course, SAFM 88. It is the National Pulse. Thank you for being a part of the show all throughout the day, engaging as you move the pulse with your own comments. You can continue commenting even after the show. Listen to the podcast. Share the podcast. By the way, also follow us on the new WhatsApp channel. Just WhatsApp us 0614 104 107 if you want to do that. But on social media, even now, the hashtag The National Pulse, you can share your comments and your opinions all throughout the day, effectively 24/7. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, Ramaphosa speaks on alliance partners and the Estina case is struck off the roll. Good evening to you. The ANC President, Cyril Ramaphosa, says despite the party